Oh yeah. Oh, you're so fine. I really wanna make you mine. Sit back and let's unwind. And we can take a bottle of some wine. Ooh. So are you down to rock with me? Cause girl, you fly just like my G. And I need to know, I need to know. Are you really down for anything? 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 So fine, I really wanna make you mine. Sit back and let's unwind, and we can take a bottle of some wine. Ooh. So are you down to rock with me? Cause girl, you fly just like my G. And I need to know, I need to know. Are you really down for anything? 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 Are you really down for anything?
That's killed it.
You made the decision to play Thiago. Klopp doesn't change the system since Luvac left. You don't want to change from the 4-3.
Boom, 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 boom. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, people? We are back again on the Jerry James Show for another tactics board. This time in the evening, man. I haven't done a late session in a while. We've got a couple of people in the background as well, ready to hop in. It's going to be an interesting one. And listen, this is a bit more subdued than usual, man. This is more subdued than I thought it would be after the game against United. Everyone looking forward to that game. Had a mare, thought I was actually going to get to the game, go into the game. Hence, I didn't drop the preview. It was a madness. It was an absolute madness. And I'm happy I didn't go. A dire performance. When we needed to rise up and be counted, dire. This was an opportunity for Liverpool to take the reins, like, do you know what I mean, this season and put in a solid performance against a big team, albeit an underperforming team. Still would have been a massive, massive statement. And what did we do? Same old Liverpool, made it difficult for ourselves, allowed Arsenal to, do you know what I mean, end up the weekend a point in front of us. And now all the cracks that some of us were talking about have re-emerged. Talks of Nunez, talks of Szoboszlai. Heck, even some talks of Klopp. That's what man is screaming. So it's only right that, you know, the wrong-uns come and discuss it in real wrong-un style. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on the main man as well. We've got a man like G in the building, running it with me. Before I get into the chat to me, man. Obviously, make sure, guys, if we're watching, we're liking on all platforms, whether that's, you know what I mean, whether you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. Make sure you're heading over to YouTube and liking the video as well. Make sure we're heading over to GTV as well and liking up and subscribing. And please, if you're enjoying the content, subscribe to the channel. Before I get into it, G, man, with the comments, chat to me.
Firstly, don't call me a wrongin'. You know what I mean? Don't put me in the same boat as you. You're a wrongin'. You get me? But
that's right. I'm a wrongin' by myself. Say no more. Let me not speak for G. Then let me not speak for G.
Nah, I'm joking, man. Nah, listen, man. I feel like we've spoken about this performance, like this game, the performance. It's everything really in it. Like, it's everything. But at the same time, we're still only a point behind Arsenal in the table. If we beat them, then we go top. So I guess every cloud has its silver lining. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them kind of things. I think, but it's just more. I think it's just annoying watching that kind of performance. Even the fact that it wasn't even just Manchester United, it could have been anybody that we had that same performance against. Like, we've had performances against Brighton, against Luton, you know, that have been quite similar, you know, in terms of just frustrating to watch, you know, certain little things. And we ain't saying, and I don't want to speak for Jerry, but I'm not saying Liverpool is supposed to go 38 games and win 38. You know, I'm trying to say, like, I know that's impossible. I've never seen that before in my life. And I don't think that's ever going to happen. But there are things that you can do to limit certain things, you know, that we saw, and obviously we'll get into. But yeah, man, other than that, your title kind of says it there at the bottom underneath both of us here, forwards out of form. Let's get into it, man.
Yeah, man. Look, for me, I want to touch on a point that you just said there, man. Look, we don't expect Liverpool to win 38 games. I think everyone expected Liverpool to beat this United side.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's been worrying is not necessarily, of course, this season that we're, as you said it, silver lining. We beat Arsenal on the weekend, beat West Ham midweek, and the narrative changes slightly.
Yeah.
But if I'm being logical, the performances this season haven't been convincing from the start. And when we mentioned it, we were told, I mean, well, I was told I'm negative, I'm a wrong un. This player's decent.
Jerry's been a wrong un all season, bro.
And I've sat here and I've looked at this and I haven't been convinced one bit. Now, of course, we might jam your way to a title. And I won't be complaining. If you jam your way to a title, cool. But we as fans know the standard and the level it takes to win a title. And yes, this is a different season. But this can't inspire anyone with confidence. We looked lost in possession. Players like Szoboszlai that were, earlier in the season were being revered and compared to Szoboszlai. We're comparing Szoboszlai and Bellingham at one point.
Can you imagine? Donny on 17 goals in that? No.
Well, this is what's going on.
I think obviously we'll get into it anyways, but yeah, you're right. We did expect, and not even, I'm not talking about the overconfident people, the ones who are like, nah, we're gonna beat them 5, 6, 7. Like I didn't think it was ever gonna be that if we did win. In my prediction, I had 2-1 Liverpool because I thought it would be a close game. Like I genuinely thought, it's gonna be close, but to come out of it 0-0, considering we're the second top goal scorer, I think, second or third or whatever, in terms of goals scored. But it's so mad because it just seems like, as you said, we've just been jamming our way through these performances, bro. Like it's just not been fun to watch. And obviously we went to the game and we saw that Palace game and I was just like, I think you said it actually about, if you go to a game, and big up all the people who go to, the matches every single week. If you go to a game, sometimes you might see something and it's like, yo, maybe let me just ease up on the man them real quick. You know what I mean? Because they are doing something. But bro, I watched that game and I was like, yo, these lot look shit. Like they didn't look like Liverpool I know, of the last few seasons. And again, obviously we see it in this Manchester United game, just as a whole, really. The defense was calm, by the way. Like I will say that. But the rest, I don't know, man. It didn't really look popping to me.
Yeah, man. Look, we're going to get into obviously some of the comments as well. But pure people on Twitch today, which is mad. Maybe this is the late night crew, but big up to yourselves on Twitch. Obviously, we've got G saying smash the likes as well. Big up to El Hero saying sup. We've got Ed in the building as well. We've got Jaw saying this was such a normal Liverpool obviously versus low block performance. And that's the problem for me. That's the key. That this isn't something new. This isn't, we came up against a very direct target man team that, whacked the ball up, flicked it on, and it caused us, an issue that we're not really used to. This was the same old performance, and we knew that United would sit back. But this was evident. If you're going to get a point at Anfield, if you're going to get a point against Liverpool, a low block is your best bet. Crystal Palace proved it. Newcastle proved it for quite a bit of the games as well when we faced them. So this is something that's happened for a couple of seasons now. So that's my worrying bit. We've got big up to Phil Bidwell saying, I just been on Statsman channel and I was hopeless at the quiz, but I done better than our forwards did yesterday. We've got Victor Ajama saying, Klopp has lost the plot. Let me know. Expand on that for me, man. But I'm just going to get, let me see if I got this here, man. I'll leave that for now. But just to look at the game, obviously, where is it? I put all this stuff in. Oh, there we go. Just to get it up, let's just have a look at the stats. Let's move us out of the way actually as well. Yeah, that might be covered. Cool. So as we can see here, obviously these are the stats for the game, and straight off the bat, these stats feel so similar in comparison to other games. 34 shots to 6 shots for Man United, 8 on target, 1 on target for United, 1 big chance for Liverpool out of 34 shots, which is outrageous. We've got obviously 1 big chance for United, 510 passes in comparison to 209 passes, so over double the amount of passes for Liverpool. with 162 in the attacking third, only 29 passes in the attacking third for United. A real defensive performance. You know,
that's mad.
Like,
29
it's actually mad. It's actually mad to see 18 take-ons. So actually one more taken than United had. So they didn't even try break with any real kind of vim and venom. 35 crosses to 0 crosses for United. 28 tackles for Liverpool, 25 for United. 8 interceptions for Liverpool, 7 for United, and 13 fouls for Liverpool with 8 for United. I mean, that's that there, 29 passes in the attacking third. Look, there's been a lot of talk, G, about, you know, are Liverpool, were Liverpool bad? Were United good? Some people don't really want to give United their props or their flowers for the way they set up. We've had obviously the whole talk surrounding obviously Virgil van Dijk saying, you know, United are buzzing for the point, Keane clapping back and saying that he's a bit arrogant. What's your take on it? Do you think United done well to come out with a point with there, or do you think Liverpool were just that bad that I think it enabled United to come out looking better than their actual performance? And had we had been better, it could have easily been another 3-4-0.
I think it's mad because I don't think Liverpool were like shit though. That's the maddest thing. I don't think like I watched that game for we was dog shit. But I definitely, you have to give United their props, man. Like you have to. Like the context of Manchester United right now. Like we all know they're in the mud. We all know that, you know, everything surrounding some of the players, the leaks, injuries that they've had as well. I know we got injuries, but obviously they've also got injuries as well. And when you're a team that's not really in a good moment, just got knocked out of Europe as well, do you know what I'm saying? Ain't got their captain, Bruno Fernandes, you know, in the game, playing Maino and Amrabat in the middle. You know what I mean? With McTominay up against a Liverpool team. Like the context of all of that, it was a fantastic point for Manchester United. That's why I understood why they celebrated in the way that they did, because the reality is you don't think that you're going to come up against Liverpool at Anfield and walk away with a point and stop them from scoring as well. Like there's a lot of things that go behind it. So pick up Manchester United for that, man. You have to give them their props, regardless of what we want to say about their performance. They did what they needed to do. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Especially if we're going to turn around and say, oh, we got a sick point at Manchester City, at Etihad. Oh, no, it was a good point. Oh, you know what? Going away to Chelsea is a good point. All right, cool. So going away to Anfield and getting a point is also a good point as well. Do you know what I mean? We can't, like, I see bare people getting onto Manchester. I'm like, but we were saying the same things at Chelsea, the same thing at Manchester City. It's the same thing here, man. Getting a point is fantastic for them. For us, of course, it's a letdown. Do you know what I mean? And when you context about how we played with everything that kind of happened within the game, yeah, bro, like it's so disappointing for Liverpool to not walk away with like even a goal, just one goal. I'm not even asking for 6-7-0, bro. I'm just asking for one goal, and they just couldn't really do. I was looking for Trent. I think someone just said in the comments like that Trent nearly was it when he hit the post with that shot. Like outside of that, like everything else was like just wishy-washy chances and stuff like that. So that speaks volumes for the game, man. Like I said, you got to big up United for that one, man. Got to big up United.
Look, I mean, yeah, I got to echo that. I think there's a bit of saltiness from certain fans because we haven't gone and done the job, and I think there's a bit of saltiness from Verge. And I don't think it was being necessarily disrespectful.
No.
I think Keane was I don't know. I think he was just. I don't know. You got a tad bit touching about emotion, but he's just a bit of a weird guy.
You, boy,
like at times, exactly. Like at times he's like all anti-United, and then when someone says something about United, he gets mad. He's like the brother that hates his ex. He's beating up his ex. If anyone chats about his ex, do you know what I mean? He gets mad. But then when he's with her, he's punching her up. Do you know what I mean? He's chatting about Fergie, saying he's a clown. Like he's just a bit of a weird character sometimes, man. But yeah, moving on, like obviously going into the game, a lot of people obviously were talking about, you know, Liverpool, and it's like the title, isn't it? Liverpool are going to win because of the forwards. The strength in depth, we spoke about the whole season. Our strength in depth, the best in the league. Our forwards are the best in the league in terms of as a collective. Maybe not man for man as a starting kind of front three or front two. But in terms of depth, there's no one that can match us in the league, if not in world football, because of the amount of talent we've got going forward, apparently. we got to look at the stats again. And you see here, look, obviously 34 shots, 8 on target. I mean, we're having shots. We go and look at, hold on, where is this? I want to make sure this is the one I can't see. Yeah, here, shots in the game. And ironically, yeah, so Salah, out of the 34 shots, Salah is the only forward that makes the top 5 of shots in the game. 6 shots by Mohamed Salah, 4 on target, 0 goals. Virgil van Dijk and Konate also having 3 and 4 shots respectively, obviously 2 and 1 on target, 0 goals. And Trent having 4 shots with 0 on target, 0 goals as well. I'm just going to put it bluntly, man. Is there an issue with our forwards? Have we been gaslit to feel as though these forwards are as strong as we think? Is Diaz as good as we think? Is Salah past his best? Is Nunez La Pantera, like people want to go and call him? Do you know what I mean? Is chaos?
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Which one? What?
The La Pantera. What does that mean?
The Panther.
Oh, I'll just make sure. Like,
yeah, the Panther. Apparently,
no, guys, he people say it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So we're calling him. This whole time we've been calling him a Panther. Yo,
yeah,
you
Panther.
You can't
like
teach
stealthy,
me languages, bro.
Stealthy.
Get along. Stealthy.
Yeah. We're talking about that. Is Gakpo, this? Is he the guy? Jota always in. Like, what's going on? Because this season, since Lask, I think our forwards have only scored about 4 goals in all competitions.
I got a video dropping tomorrow. Yeah, talking about our forwards. Yeah, I did a video at the beginning of the season talking about our forwards, and I asked everybody in the chat. Obviously, some people who are here, some people are not here. I asked everyone, "Yo, do you think we got the best attack in Europe?" Some people said yes. Some people said, "Yeah, maybe second." Bayern got a good attack. I'm saying Sane, Harry Kane. If you want to say that's a 2 with Musiala and whatnot. Obviously, PSG are kind of in there with Mbappe, Kolo Muani, Asensio, Ramos as well. Real Madrid, but theirs is a bit weird because of how they play it. Manchester City, Arsenal, and stuff like that. And bare people told me yes, and I said, okay, fair enough. Like, I'm not going to dispute it, because on paper, when you look at it as a collective, then you should be saying, yeah, of course. But Jerry's right. Man for man, I don't think so. Do you know what I mean? I don't know who has. I'd have to go and have a look at it and compare it or whatever. But as a unit, I would have said yes. But honestly, I'm just struggling, man. Like, really, really struggling. And you know what bugs me, I think, most about this season more than anything, is that because we have the Europa League, we're obviously able to see us play against like Lask, Toulouse, and USG and that. So when the Gakpos, the Nunezes, the Diazes, and the Salahs, when they're getting the goals against those guys, obviously their stats are going to go up, as it should, whatever. So when we look at it as a whole, you're like, oh, right, okay, yeah, this looks good because they're scoring goals and ret-tet. And again, I don't really have too much an issue with that. But then sometimes I feel like it kind of masks a lot of what's really happening this season, because we're playing against the Toulouses, the flipping Lasks, and you're getting your 2 goals here and beating them, whatever, scoring a penalty there and blah, blah, blah. But then when man's coming up against, the Premier League quality opposition, you just said it there. I don't even know. I think I got like how long these guys haven't scored in. It's starting to get a little bit embarrassing, bro. And the one area of the team that I thought was calm was the attack. I thought, no, the attack should be calm. But I'll be real, the defense seems calm. Yes, it's got its problems and ret-tet, but it seems like the most stable position that we have at the moment. But the forwards line, you take Salah out of there, anyone in the chat, if you please can tell me and help us, what's the goals looking like? Big up you, you say Nunez is 009 right now. Is that true? I don't know. Is that the case? 009. This is the guy that everyone said to myself, Jerry, Roms, do not hide. Roms, do not hide. Do not hide. Because you told me, Roms, this is the year. You told me this is the year, Bedrin, that, we're going to be, we're going to see Nunez. We're going to see him at his best. And when he started the season, we will all say, well, most people were saying, yeah, Nunez, this is his season. He scored those 2 goals against Newcastle, and you're right. Big up Zia Udin. You're right. Best defense and second, I think joint top defense in the Premier League. We've got third joint best goal scorers in the league and all that kind of stuff. Listen, all of that sounds good, but guys in the chat, you and myself and Jerry, we all watch the games. We watch these games. We watch them religiously. Every bloody week, we watch the games. We're all seeing the same thing. And even when we we are winning, I'm gonna say we're like we haven't been winning for time. Even when we are winning, guys, we're all seeing the same things. And we've all got issues with the team. But your issues might not be the same as ours, but everyone's got issues with the team. How is that possible when this team is doing well? We're through to the next round of the Europa League. We've got a quarterfinal game against West Ham coming up. We're second in the Premier League. We were just top just a couple of days ago. But yet we've all got problems with the team. And one of those problems is the attack. How does that make sense? That means something must not be right. It must be. Or we are all haters. We're all haters and we're all crazy. If we're all saying near enough the same kind of thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense, bro. It really doesn't. And I agree, man. I just think this attack is just, man. If you took Salah out of it, I just think, I've always said it. You take Salah out of this attack, it looks so meaty, and you would probably compare it to like a Newcastle attack or I don't know, Aston Villa attack, or who else is up there?
You're right. The Newcastle attack is actually very fitting. Isak, Callum Wilson, Harvey Barnes, Almiron,
Gordon scoring bare goals like this season.
Gordon, like that front line, it's mad. And look, there's been a lot of talk saying, like or people putting up. I've seen it on the timeline, and people probably remember it. Our front three being really fluid: Mane, Firmino, Salah. It just being like that's the standard we know. And that's the best standard we've seen. Why do you think these players can't get to that level? Do you think they're just not good enough? Do you think we've purchased poorly? Or do you think it's more down to the coaching? Is it a lack of form? Do you think that, look, Salah might go, but do you think the rest of these 4, because we've got 5 in this photo behind us, do you think the likes of Diaz, Gakpo, Nunez, Jota can start to click? And then we're not saying, look, get Salah numbers, but will it look more fluid? Because right now it seems that when we're getting into the final third and attacking, especially if we're against the low block, we don't have a clue what we're going to do. Salah doesn't have a clue. Nunez doesn't have a clue. Gakpo tries. Jota doesn't get in, like you don't want him getting involved in play, because unless he's in the box, people are questioning his touch and his link-up play. Diaz is just working hard, a runner. But there's no real idea or plan of what we're going to do unless we're playing in transition, unless we're gegenpressing, unless we're counter-attacking. There doesn't seem to be an idea. Who do you pin that on?
I think Enz really said it there. It's all of the above. Everything you said. Literally everything you said is actually true. I think it is all of the above. Like, I think Liverpool's problem, and this is why as fans we just jump on it too quick, man. And this is why I always sound like a hater, because it always sounds like I'm trying to act above and beyond. But this is what I'm talking about. Obviously, like I said, caveat, we're still second in the league, so anything can, we can still jammy our way to a title. Cool. But when we look at this team and what we had before, bro, you have to continue that, man. You've seen with Manchester City what's happened this season anyway. Obviously, still could go and win the league. De Bruyne still needs to come back. Everything could change. But we've seen with Manchester City, when you don't keep and maintain that level, the high level that you've set, you drop off a piece. Look at Manchester City this season. They've dropped off a little piece now. Not really at their free-flowing best. And that's with, they've had Rodri been suspended for periods of time. De Bruyne has obviously been suspended this season. Haaland, I don't know, this brother seems to have been injured or whatever the case may be. Who else have they had out? Stones, I don't even know where this, I've barely seen this guy kind of playing. Like, you've seen, and then obviously Gundogan, Mahrez, these guys have then gone, and they haven't really replaced with real quality. They've got decent players in, but not to that level. And now look at these guys. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, they don't look as good as the Man City as we know. And it's the same with Liverpool. When you've had to let go of Mane, Firmino, obviously your Fabinho's, your Henderson, whoever, when you've let go of all of these guys, the players that you've signed, no problem. But you genuinely need to sign real quality to the team. If you don't sign it, you get left with this. And the way that Liverpool play is so specific, like Manchester City, is so specific. Product, I promise you, if you don't get someone who can come in and kind of do similar roles and you're not willing to change it up, yeah, that's a problem. That's going to be a problem. Everyone's saying that Kevin De Bruyne is back. Well, then you might as well just give the title to Man City from now. Because yeah. Okay, you're not so mad. I promise you he ends on more assists than Szoboszlai. I promise you. But that's another conversation.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely going to get there. You know, it's a weird one because, you know, usually we've been in a situation before as Liverpool fans where, you know, we sign someone, an unknown entity, we trust the club because prior in the past they've got it right. They've brought in players, it's worked well. We might have not been convinced, but they've always turned it around. And I think this new batch of players that we've brought in, yes, it's quite early on, but we're not being as quickly convinced as we were with some of the other signings we had. So when Gini came in, when Mane came in, there was no questions about were they good enough for Liverpool. We just knew they were. And I think with these players, you know, Szoboszlai was one that, you know, probably started off the best out, and it has started off the best out of and probably being the best out of all our midfielders. Really, really good segue before we kind of get into some of the stats as well. Just chop it up. And, you know, he's fallen off, man. He's fallen off. He's not performing at the same level. Dropped off. That performance against United was really poor, especially considering the levels that we a lot of us put him on, the pedestal we put him on, and against the midfield he was playing against. This wasn't Rodri, De Bruyne, Gundogan. This wasn't Busquets, Iniesta, Xavi. This was Amrabat, Mainu, and McTominay in a 10. That should be an easy game to navigate. And it should be from a midfielder's perspective. You can't give the ball away.
But the thing is, it then depends on how your midfielders are being told to operate, though. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because I said it to my boy already. I was chatting to him this morning. He's a Man United fan, and I said to him, I knew you was going to play Maino in this game. I just knew. Like, obviously, I don't know who else you got to play anyway, but I knew he would play because you need the energy, you need the enthusiasm, someone young to be able to run around the pitch, especially against Liverpool in the way that we kind of want to play, the intensity and stuff like that. You need that. And I don't feel like they have any other real players to do that. So I had a feeling he would play. McTominay was always going to play. Amrabat, again, I guess was just the other choice from what they have available, you know, to play in a game like this. And, you know, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Endo really needed to match that. Endo was calm. I thought like he was probably our best midfielder in the game. But I felt like the other two needed to match that level of intensity. We've now heard that, and I still haven't seen how long, we've now heard that Gravenberch is now injured, you know.
Hamstring injury, yeah.
Hamstring injury. So, you know, that's another player who's going to be out alongside McAllister, alongside Matip, alongside Thiago, alongside Bajcetic, alongside Andrew Robertson. You know what I mean? All of a sudden now this is starting to, you know, add up again, and we're going back to the old ways of, yeah, players are just getting injured and we're going to have some shit team put out and then we're just going to, you know, stop being rubbish, blah, blah, blah. But I just think if we're talking about Szoboszlai, I don't, obviously I didn't finish the show with on Enz's channel, but I don't really understand or know and you know, Savage was mentioning, Savage has mentioned, yourself and mentioned, everyone was talking about it. Like, his role is obviously being hampered somewhat by what Trent's role is. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So whatever Trent's doing is then hampering his role. So now you're watching as Szoboszlai, and I've been so pissed off because I wanted Szoboszlai to really like come in. Big up 12. I wanted Szoboszlai to really come in and I don't know, show what I've seen really from him. And obviously, if you've been asked to do a different role, fair enough. Asked, you know, do the different role. But then even this role that you're doing, you're not even really doing that to a good enough standard at this current moment in time. And that, I think that's the killer for everybody. I think it'll be calm if he was doing this role to a good enough standard where we're like, okay, no worries, blah, blah, blah. But because he's then not doing that, now everyone's obviously starting to now pile on everything now. Now it's like, oh, but you're not Steven Gerrard, and oh, you're not doing this, and oh, you're not doing that, and blah, blah, blah. When reality is, he's obviously being told to do one thing. We want another thing, which is just personal preference. We ain't the manager. So we probably just got to get used to him in this kind of form, which is the Henderson form, which is Henderson don't look great every game. He never did. Like, he had good games, really, really good games, but then he had other games where you're just like, brother, what are you doing? This flick on thing, this crossing the ball, that rubbish. Szoboszlai will do the same thing. So maybe we just got to get used to that in the future. I don't know, man. Big up 12.
I really do, man. Big up to 12 man in the building. Obviously been asked by a couple of people to get you in here, so we've got you in there, man.
Yeah.
Chat to me, man. Chat to me. Just give me a shortish synopsis and analysis of the game, because a lot of people aren't happy, man. A lot of people aren't happy with
I can understand that. I can understand that. I can understand people not being happy. I wasn't happy with the result. I think that if anything, we're not finishing our dinner, obviously. I mean, like, that's the biggest complaint that I would have. I mean, if you told me that a team was going to allow for us to have 34 shots, then I would say, okay, chances are we should be able to convert on something. And not only that, if you told me also that we were going to have 9 corner kicks by the end of the first half, not the full game, first half, I also would have said, okay, cool, yeah, we should convert on something from a corner kick as well. So, I mean, it's not like we didn't have the opportunities. It's more so we just weren't able to finish these opportunities that were in front of us. And if that's the case, then that brings up a different scenario for us. Because, I mean, like, I've been calling the Red Devils the Blue Devils pretty much because they played like Everton, to a lesser extent. You know what I mean? So I can understand people not being happy with the results. But all things considered, I mean, I think that we needed to finish our dinner. And considering, I think possibly our best, and this is no knocking against Mo Salah at all, but I mean, possibly our best finisher is not available at the moment in Diego. So, I mean, like, maybe some of these results, we have Cody obviously really, really looking to find form. So that's why I think he was a little bit greedy at times, if anything. But yeah, I mean, we utilize this and we get back these positional players that we need in Diego. We get back. This is why I keep saying how this new form of concept for this game with Klopp and Pep with the 6 in this hybrid DM role showed how much we do need and utilize Maka, despite Endo having a good game, in my opinion. So I mean, there's a lot of things that were unfortunate in this game, but I mean, realistically, we just move and look to get a result against West Ham and an even more important game, which is getting a result against Arsenal.
Do you not think that this game was an opportunity for Liverpool to kind of assert their authority and kind of stake a claim for whether that be a title or a title challenge? Because this was, albeit against the poor United side, it was still a game where Liverpool could have, maybe for the first time this season, played a big team, but really had a strong all-round performance against one of the big rivals and say, okay, look, this is the standard, and go into that Arsenal game, obviously on the weekend. Obviously, we got West Ham in between that, but go into the Arsenal game saying, look, we're here to play.
Right.
Do we not feel we've encouraged because even though we had 34 shots, it wasn't a dominant performance. We still looked very, very vulnerable. And looking at, Trent last minute touch away from Garnacho, couple saves from Alisson or good closing down from Alisson, we still look very susceptible to a United team that had 9 shots in the whole game to our 34. They had one big chance. We had one big chance in the game. So we even though we had 34 shots, for me, a lot of them came from out. Yeah, a lot of them came from outside of the box. A lot of them came from outside of the box.
No, I'm talking about United. United had 6 shots. You said 9, but
6 shots. No, sorry, 6 shots. Yeah, no, 6 shots. But I'm saying, yeah, you're right with 6 shots. I'm saying in general, I'm saying, Liverpool, a lot of their shots came from outside of the box, and we looked quite frustrated. And again, I forgot who actually meant it. It might have been El Hero who mentioned it earlier. But this is the same issue that we've had when playing against low blocks, and this has been the same issue for 3 seasons now, where if a team sits back, we have no clue of how to break them down. No clue of how to break them down, and we need to play on the transition in order to create chances. As soon as a team sits back, it's like okay, it's over.
Yeah, I can understand that frustration. Look, I've been saying it time and time again that when we heard the same frustrations when we faced off against Everton at home. Okay. And, I know that we ended up, figuring out the puzzle at some point because Diaz, in my opinion, that game was just a little bit more of a handful for Everton because they were trying to do what we saw Manchester United do. And I can understand what you're saying about we had a lot of shots. Sure, we had 15 shots from outside the box. We also had 19 shots from inside the box. So, I mean, when some of these when it gets down to it, to me, it's more so it's about the finishing. Look, we didn't, even when we had the shots on net, which were 8 shots, I believe, on net, those shots were still easy saves because it was like straight down the middle type saves. And it wasn't like we put them in positions. The closest thing that we had to an actual shot was a shot that was off target. And I think that was from from Trent, Yeah. So, where like you saw Onana just freeze and say, yo, if that goes in, that goes in. There's not much, there's no point in even diving for it. So, I can understand definitely the frustrations that we all have on seeing low blocks and such, but I think that we've done relatively well, or at least better with low blocks this year than we have in previous years. I could say that much. Would you not agree? I mean, considering that we've gotten results from some teams that have sat back and just played a low block.
We have done. Me personally, I don't want to speak for G. Maybe G can obviously chime in on this as well, but I haven't been convinced with Liverpool this season. I think the result that we had on the weekend was the result that we probably should have had against Crystal Palace, a result that we probably should have had against Newcastle had it not been Nunez coming on and really showing his clinical edge in that game. I think we haven't controlled games as well as I would like. And I think as a result, we're still very susceptible. And I think that's summarized by the fact that when Alisson was out, Kelleher comes in, we can see the same amount of chances, have the same amount of chances going forwards, but concede goals. Look like we're going to lose games. And I think, that's the biggest worry for me, is that I don't think this way of playing is sustainable.
So then I ask you this.
Of course, results are important. Of course, results are important,
exactly.
And that's the main
That's
thing.
what I was going to get to. Just one caveat.
Okay, go on.
No, I'm sorry, not to cut across you. I was just going to say, because it's something I would like to hear G2's opinion on this too. But, I know there was that concept of Fergie time, right? Now, I'm not saying this team is on some level just yet, at least, on Manchester United during that era. But Fergie time was that time when we had a lot of these come behind victories that we saw. We just tied that record by the number of victories that we've had so far already this year. Now, when that time was going on for United, was it a conversation to say that, oh, well, they shouldn't have won this, they shouldn't have won that, and are we gonna like that then take away from their glory of their performances and doing what they necessarily needed to do? It's the same thing as to why, and this is the other question I would like to cover, is that Arsenal, I know, I've just heard plenty of pundits try to utilize the mentality monster concept, especially, when it comes to TFT, when it comes to Arsenal, when they performed against Luton Town. Now, everyone got on us because we got a draw. They had to come from behind to win in that game, and they did. And plaudits go to them. But the fact is, when do we choose to give applause, or when do we choose to not give criticism? That's the true question to me. Because again, I'm not saying it's Fergie time or something like that on those lines, but I'm saying that the same people that gave them those plaudits for doing what they did during that era, why can't we allow for that to be attributed to us, saying that's an incredible accomplishment to be down, especially to be down the way that we have been in so many games, and to come back and win. Or for instance, again, the mentality monster concept, we really haven't heard that been acclaimed to many teams other than ourselves in the past era. Now all of a sudden everyone wants to be a mentality monster, So I get what you're saying, but there's certain aspects of what make a club special that I think sometimes, even because I know G's a stat guy too, there's certain things that go about having a team that knows how to collectively push a result that maybe they didn't even deserve, but still get. That's what I like to see in a club and a team. And that's something I think that we have in this team today.
I think I actually agree with most of what you're saying, to be honest, about that. People say one thing for one team, but then the other team might do the exact same thing, and then it's almost like, well, how can they be called this, but we can't be called this if we're doing? Sure. I agree with that. That's social media pundits, just doing the silly little thing. Once they've got their favorites, I feel like they'll try and stick with that for a duration of a season. This season, it looks like they feel that Arsenal win the league, and I can understand why. That's absolutely fine. Got no real problems with that. I think though, there's always context though. And as you said, like, we like looking at stats and we like looking at numbers and maybe taking a bit of a deeper look than just an average kind of fan. And that record that Klopp tied, when I first saw it, I was like, this isn't a record that I'd be super gassed with. Well, it's not a record that I'm looking at Klopp right now and I'm super gassed with. And the only reason being is that we tied Ferguson. Ferguson had been at Manchester United for like 20 years. Like, this is over a 20-year period. We tied this now. In that 20-year period, they won 13 league titles. Right. We've won 1. So all of this coming back stuff, I can understand why they'll call that Fergie time, because I reckon, in my opinion, you attribute it with winning things. Whereas with Liverpool, I'm not attributing that with winning anything. Like, Aston Villa could have the same record and we wouldn't think anything of it. And it'll be kind of the same thing, because it'll be like, well, that's great. Like, what you're doing is actually good. It's not a bad thing. You won a game of football. That is the B's and E's. But I'm not attributing it to anything other than, all right, well, you keep going down in games. All you're showing me that is that you go down in some games in a shorter period of time, and you're able to obviously come back and win that. That does show some level of mentality. But what's the end goal here? What's the end goal? And that's why when they said that Klopp, I think, surpassed it, as you said, Fergie's one, I was like, yeah, this is good. Like, it is a good stat, but it's also a meaningless stat because it has no real base to anything. Like, this doesn't mean anything to me. Like, we're not winning anything. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Like, if I felt like, or if it was that we had won however many titles and, all of that, and it makes sense, then I would understand it. I've watched some of those games that Manchester United have come back in, when they were playing against Tottenham at Old Trafford, and I think they came out to win 5-3 to then win the league title. Things like that, that's when you're going to start attributing that Fergie time and all of these kind of things. If you're then going to attribute it winning the Champions League final against Bayern Munich, Fergie time in that 90 whatever minute it was, those are the things I'm going to attribute it to. But with Liverpool, I'm just kind of like, this is good. Like, it's a good thing that you're coming back in games, but okay, where does this lead to? Like, all you're doing is constantly having to come back, and it's only really been this season where I guess we've had to do it more so than in other seasons. Whereas in other seasons, take out last year, in other seasons we've been so dominant. We've been 99.9% of the time we're the best team. So, I'm sorry. Again, I'm sorry. No, I was gonna say, but can't you then utilize the interview that Milner had, where he spoke about how when we lost in that final and how it meant something, okay, and how he referenced about how, like, learning processes.
trying to instill that in other players around him. I mean, he'd already been a winner with City before. Okay, so it's not like this is some brand new experience for him. But again, learning that over again with Liverpool was something of a real, growing experience again for him as well. And he referenced the fact of like how, that was a learning experience. Well, a lot of these players, especially a lot of these players that we're talking about, haven't had those experiences. We have a lot of these players that we're really, really like trying to utilize as being the players that we rely on, haven't been in those championship teams per se. Now, albeit, Trent and obviously Mo and Virgil. Yes, I get that part and point, Allison. But we have some new players on the horizon that are going to be called upon to step into some big roles. And having them perform and actually having them step up, whether it's Elliott against Palace, or whether it's Dom, coming back with an amazing goal, or McAllister. All these different players are now experiencing what it is to be a part of that allure that we talked about often, that never give up allure that I reference so often with this team. And that culture that we have growing in amongst these players is going to benefit us when we go into this last run of the year, when we have to dig down deep and beat a Chelsea, or beat someone like, in a penalty kick shootout or something along those lines. That's when you're going to start to see the difference in mentality monster and the importance of having these experiences and growing and being bigger and better players from it. That's what I'm trying to reference.
Again, I can't even disagree with what you're saying, because you are speaking the truth, like you are talking facts. I think that the only thing I could really say to something like that is really just it's a good thing. I don't want to detract. Like, coming back and winning a game of football is a good thing. So
Right.
That's the first point. The problem that you've got is that what you just mentioned there about having all of these new players and having to do, them not experiencing this, that, and the third. Again, you've almost got a point where you've either now got too many new players who no one really knows what it's like to win, meaning you're kind of starting almost from square one again, supplemented with the Allisons, the Robertsons, the Trents, the Moes, and stuff like that, who should hopefully be able to come in. But then you've almost bought a set of players where you've changed an entire midfield. Obviously, got some young players coming in, all of which who have never experienced this kind of thing. You've not even brought in an experienced guy who knows what it's like to even win these kind of, tournaments or things like that. Something that you'll see with Real Madrid, for example. They'll always sign players. They might not be the best of best players all the time. Real Madrid have signed players who thought, they're okay, but they're used to winning though. So when you come into a winning culture, obviously Real Madrid is on a completely different stratosphere.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
Than everything else. But when you come into a winning culture, having been in a winning culture, it kind of feeds into everything. So Milner coming in, when he did come into Liverpool, he was starting from scratch because we hadn't won anything with this team that we've got currently. So
he's coming from winning. He's from a winning culture.
He's coming from a winning culture, but to try and change an entire club to fit the club or to match the club that you've just come from, where they win every single season and they win big trophies every single season, it's going to be difficult to do. Hence why we didn't just win it straight away when he came in. It took us a couple of years before we actually understood, and we had to lose a Champions League final and League Cup.
But isn't that what you're agreeing with though? Isn't that saying what it is with this club? Is that the difference in what, for instance, the 115 or otherwise known as Manchester City, when with them, if you have them, one of the main reasons why we're seeing the struggles that we're seeing is because so many of those key players and key components is no longer a part of that team. So now you're having to instill these new aspects and mentality things. I understand, again, you and I love stats, but these are like stats these are factors that aren't really statistically seen. And it's like one of those situations where these players are now having to learn the mentality of what Pep and what the City want from their players. So it is going to be a progress for them to learn. I'm just saying that it helps and is encouraging when we have players on our team that already look like they're a little ahead schedule in learning in this learning process. That's what I'm trying to get across. And that I get it. we are not scoring, for instance, from our front line the way we all like to see us scoring as of late. But yet, we also could say that how many goals from our midfield were we getting in previous years? Our midfield wasn't scoring really at all, primarily. How many goals outside the box were we getting? Really at all. That was like a rarity. Ox was like one of our main threats from outside the box. Now all of a sudden you have a different option, a plethora of options to utilize in this club. And again, you mix all these things in together. I think we're going in the right direction in a time in a year where I think that this league is certainly stronger, in my opinion. And City has come down a little bit in level as they try to figure out how it is to get their players in the same learning pace that our new players have gotten. And I think that's the reason why we are outperforming technically City.
But do you see the correlation with City though? Who they've let go with the Mahrezes, the Gundogan's. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne has been injured for basically the whole season. Rodri's obviously been suspended, and we've seen the players that they've replaced them with, not with any Doku, Nunez. Kovacic will be the only one. I feel like they've signed someone else, but Vardio, again, another player who's not won, not been in a winning culture. Mm-hmm. We've seen what it looks like now. This is from another team who we know are constantly winning. They haven't then replaced those players with players who are even used to winning at any type of consistent level, if at all. If I can, maybe Vardio's won a cup, I think. Kovacic obviously won Champions League with Real Madrid when he was there like a couple clubs ago. But we're seeing that difference. So now we're seeing these new set of players doing exactly what you're saying. And that's what I'm saying with Liverpool. It's almost like you've done too many players now where you're having to integrate so many new players, which is whatever the situation we need in the midfield. Cool, whatever. But you're replacing them with players who none are used to winning. I mean, we signed a player from the Stuttgart. Relegation is his kind of feat. Obviously, probably international football is probably his best type of football. Gravenberch, a player who really good at Ajax, didn't really do anything when he went to a big club at Bayern Munich. So Szoboszlai probably being the only one where he's won something at the clubs that he's been at. McAllister obviously won himself a World Cup. Outside of that, nothing really else. He's kind of still starting his kind of journey.
I mean, Brighton, he was a big part of Brighton's.
No. He was a big part, but like Brighton's a tiny club in comparison to Liverpool. So, and not winning anything still, kind of thing. So again, it's that integration of, it's okay to have however many players you want to sign, but if you do not sign this experience, which is why in the summer I was so insistent on, you could sign 4 midfielders, or you could sign 6 midfielders if you want. I don't really care how many midfielders you do sign. You need to sign someone with just the experience of winning at wherever the hell it is you're going to sign these players, because the reality is they're also going to come in. Because remember, they've got no real winners in there at the time. Aston Villa.
No, I disagree with that, G. I disagree with that in that this particular take on that, at least for Arsenal, just for Arsenal at least.
Oh,
for Arsenal, my pushback is we didn't see Arsenal become even remotely a threat other than, I mean, there's still bottle jobs, but still, like, we haven't seen them become even remotely a threat until who joined their team? 2 115 players, okay? Or City, excuse me.
Very true.
2 City players, okay? So, you got Jesus and Shevchenko join your teams, and that made an enormous difference because those 2 players, they've said it time and time again, how those 2 players made the difference in the mentality and focus of what they're utilizing in the team. Those 2 players understand what it means to be in title races. So I get that, yes, you can bring experience like that to a team and it can make a certain difference. But it could also mean that if you do bring young players like your Doms or McAllister's not necessarily young, but I mean like young enough. If you bring players like Dom again into a team like this, it's about how they accept Klopp's system, about how they accept his mission, his philosophy, and utilize it as their own. Because like when it comes to Cody or these players that we're looking at take on different roles or different positions, on the pitch that they're not normally playing from their former team or even their international club team, these players are now sitting there going, okay, well, I believe in Klopp enough. I believe in Klopp enough that he can get the best out of what I have to offer. And usually when players are willing to do that, you see results. But if you have a player that, might have won, like let's say you have a player that has the stature of being a world-class player, but hasn't won anything, and then you bring him to a club like Liverpool, now you're going to tell him, oh, I need you to play here, I need you to play there. He's going to look at you like, what are you talking about? Do you not know who I am? And then disruptions in the locker room occur, and that's where we have unique ability in this club to bring in players that
it's that Excel sheet that was always spoken about. Mm-hmm. But speaking obviously on midfield, and what I mean, do they fit, or do buying players and do they fit obviously the system? I'm gonna get some stats up. So hold on, let me remove that comment first. I'll get into the comments shortly as well, people. Mm-hmm. 2 seconds. Let me just get this up, make sure I've got all the right ones here. So let's start with hold on, passes. Let's start with passes, actually. Where's passes? Okay.
Was this from our previous game, or what is this?
Yeah, no, this is from the previous game, yeah. So we're seeing here, of course, in terms of passes, obviously we've got a top 5, obviously top 5 passes, the amount of passes completed in the game. That's for both teams. So you've seen Ibrahim Konate with 94, Virgil with 71, Trent with 69, Ouattara Endo with 55, and Salah with 37. We go on to, of course, shots here, and just running through them again. Of course, Salah topping the shots, but obviously having 0 on target with 4 shots on target out of 6. Trent obviously still being there with 4 shots, however, he's got 0 on target.
So who had shots on target then? I can't even remember now.
Yeah, no, on targets here. So Mohamed Salah had 4.
Sorry.
Ibrahim Konate had 1.
Oh, the first one is if they scored. Okay, yeah, I get it. Sorry.
Yeah, the first one's if they scored, yeah. Looking here, crosses, Trent, 14 attempted crosses, 5 completed, the most out of anyone here. We've got attacking third passes, 27 out of 39. Trent topping that stat again. Chances created, Trent topping that chart again. I would say Salah with 5 created. We've got obviously tackles here for Liverpool. Trent again, third or second for Liverpool. However, Anthony doing really, really well against Diaz in that game. Ball recoveries, Trent with 8. Take-ons, Trent with obviously 3 out of 3, the most out of any player on the pitch. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talk about Szoboszlai.
Okay.
Trent, that right-hand side. Now, Trent, it seems as though he's coming into his own. And as you spoke about, he's, Klopp's found a system for him where he's able to thrive and, you're getting the best out of him. Do you think Liverpool are getting the best out of Szoboszlai right now?
Oh, man.
And yeah, look, he might fit the system. But earlier on, when Trent, if you looked at the stats, earlier on in the season, Trent was very kind of, I don't want to say mediocre, but he was good, but nothing outstanding. We were accustomed to this level of Trent. Trent was just a good performer. Szoboszlai was outstanding. I remember the game against Bournemouth. I think he went down, or was it Wolves, went down to 10 men. He played in a defensive mid role in a 4-2-3 and dominated the game in that regard in terms of passes. He was all over the place, scoring goals from outside of the box. His level drops off, and that coincides with the emergence of Trent.
Right, exactly.
Trent dominating that side. Are we getting the best out of Szoboszlai? And if we're not, is that down to the system? Is that down to his individual performances? Have we overestimated his ability? And I asked this to G earlier. Have we overestimated his ability in terms of what he can be for Liverpool? Because the talk earlier on was obviously the comparisons to him and Steven Gerrard. Now we're looking at it right now, and this might, as you said, maybe Klopp wants him to do that Henderson role, and maybe we looked at Henderson in the wrong light. Accused Henderson of, why is he putting in that first time cross? Why is he running around? Does he keep seemingly start to give the ball away? In recent performances, Szoboszlai's performances have been very reminiscent of a performance of Henderson, of a standard performance of what Henderson obviously gave. But it's interesting that that's coincided with Trent and how he's dominating that right-hand side, and can the two coexist on that right-hand side? Very long-winded question, but
no, and I appreciate the context is important. So I appreciate the extra context for the question. What I would say, my answer would be very complex in itself, in that I can understand that people have seen Dom have a little bit of a drop off in his performance levels, at least. I'm not going to necessarily atone it to just what's going on in his personal life. I don't know if you guys know about, apparently I was overhearing about what's going on in his personal life. So there are some things going on, but relationship wise, let's just put it that way. Okay. So, let's just be honest. We're men here. We can understand how that can sometimes, make us not exactly keep focus, complete focus. But let's just talk about what we know about from his performances on the pitch. I think that at the same time, Dom was getting some real accolades in the beginning of the year. So I know people have been really saying it's tactics, it's a system, this and that and such. But the same tactics and system that we were looking at utilizing in the beginning of the system were the reasons why we're giving this player his high accolades, as in the sense of saying, wow, we finally have a player that really, really is going to honor that number 8 kit, as opposed to, no shade towards Naby, but, he's definitely come in and made us forget about, the shortcomings of Naby's availability, because I thought Naby had the potential to be a good player for us as well, and at times showed it. But when it comes to Dom, I also think that there are parts of his game, whereas because Trent, as you said, is now taking a lot more shots. Okay, let's just be honest. There was a time when Trent really wasn't shooting at all, really, in games.
Yeah.
But we just watched, last 2, 3, 4 games where, he's been like one of our main goal threats, So I can understand that, that nuance to say, okay, well, maybe Dom is going through something, but it's just like any player. Sometimes you go through spells. Sometimes you go through those learning spells where as in your form dips off. Obviously, I already mentioned what's going on in your outside life can have an effect on it. Don't say that it doesn't, because it does, despite the fact that you might want to get away from it. But all the same, that's not an excuse. You're a professional. You're supposed to show up on the day and perform. And Dom, I think, is wanting to have it all, in the sense of the same way. I look at Dom's performances the same way I look at Cody's performances as of late. I think Cody is a talented player, for instance. And I'm not trying to deflect and go off into some tangent or something. I just think Cody's a very important and talented player, as you spoke of earlier. But right now, he's kind of pressing a little bit too much to want to get it. He's doing the hard work, which if anything, if I can stress this to us or any of the youths out there, hard work, dedication, like Mayweather says, will result in success, right? And you got to continue to make the runs. You got to continue to do all the extra work and such, whether it's on the practice pitch or game time. We're seeing that out of Cody, but he's not necessarily getting all the results. So now he's pressing it a little bit too much. It's the reason why Curtis Jones had a run on net that he probably should have passed it to Curtis, and he could have actually probably gotten us a game winner. But Hackball took it upon himself to try to score. I think that's the same concept sometimes that Dom is getting it. He's knowing that he's only going to get a few opportunities, especially now that Trent's taking some of the opportunities that he would have probably had himself. So now in his mind, he's going, oh, I've got to score here. I got to score here. I got to score here. And he's not. And that starts to weigh on your shoulders a little bit. And I'm hoping that he understands that, I don't want to sound too flowery, but, we all walk along. You never walk alone. So, we all walk with them, and we'll go through this little spell that he's going through, because I think he's going to find his rhythm again. He's going to get that goal that brings a smile to his face. And that's when the goals start opening up, and that's, I believe that for any player on our team, because they all have the talent to be all world class.
I think I definitely hear that. I think with Dom as well, though, And big up Angel obviously saying when Zob was playing well, the system wasn't mentioned. Now he isn't performing. It's on Klopp and the system. Well, you could still say that. You could still say that because you could say, well, look at Trent. Do you know what I mean? If Trent is now performing, if Trent is now doing the same things that Dom should be doing or could be doing, then clearly it's a system thing, you know, and that's then down to Dom and Trent and Klopp to sort that out. And really, it's probably not even that deep because we're still winning games anyway. So he might not even look at it as an issue, so to speak. We might look at it as an issue because we notice it. And you're right, players will go through bad. I've seen Gerrard go through some shit games. Like people are like this
Lewandowski's
guy.
Gone through
10 out of 10.
Lewandowski's gone through goal droughts. Yeah, Lewandowski, one of the greatest scorers ever. Lewandowski has gone through goal droughts, and it's the same thing that Klopp told Lewandowski. You know, when Klopp was getting a lot of fire, a lot of flack for playing Lewandowski during when this is Dortmund days, obviously, you know, playing him during that spell that they had a more in-form striker, but yet Klopp believed that Lewandowski would grow and would get through this spell and get through it. And I mean, it took like Klopp having a beer with them in the hotel lobby of a game saying, I believe in you. And next game, he scores a hat trick. You know, it's something sometimes so simple that you can find these little nuances. But I'm
no. To be honest, like again, I agree with you. It's just form, and everyone's going to go through good and bad form. We laugh at Heung-min Son quite a lot because I call him a purple patch, probably the best purple patch player in the world.
Great point.
You know,
great example. Yeah,
he's someone who, for a season, no, he's not going to do it for what I've not seen him ever do it for an entire season. But he goes through these serious patches where you're like, Jesus Christ, he really is. And I like Son. I think Son's a really, really good player. But that's just trying to use that as an example. For me, though, when I look at Szoboszlai, I mean, I'm not that impressed with anything he's done really this season. Even when everyone was giving him this mad high praise, I didn't look at his game and think, yeah, like he's doing anything amazing. Like I never really looked at it like that. Like I always felt like we were as a unit probably just looked better. Of course, you've got younger players and all that kind of stuff. But as in terms of individually, I never really looked at him and thought, oh yeah, he's the guy. Like he's doing whatever it is he's supposed to be doing. He's doing that to some high level of degree. I just thought, yeah, he's doing the job. Like he's not doing it, in my opinion, that much better than anybody else I've kind of seen in midfield in other teams and in our own team. So I never really understood the praise, but I always felt the praise was purely because, which is silly, the praise is just coming more from hatred of the player that he's replaced, in terms of he's replaced the guy that by the time he left, everybody was just hating Henderson, wanting him out of the football club, all the noise behind Henderson and moving to Saudi and the reasons. So as soon as Szoboszlai came in, a player that people just generally like anyway, when he starts playing at a decent level, and if I'm being honest, at levels I've seen Henderson play at many a time, it just, for some reason, everyone just took to it straight away. Now that he's not doing so, again, we get questions like what Angel was saying there, in terms of, so now it's a system thing. And it's like, no, I feel like Dom's been, yes, he's performed better in other games. Of course he has. But in a general sense, he's not impressed me that, he hasn't been my signing for Liverpool, this summer. I think there's been maybe another player I would look at to say, I think he's been a better signing, for Liverpool, in this summer, in that summer kind of transfer window. And that's nothing against Dom, because I think Dom is an amazing player. I think he can go on to be a world-class player if utilized in the right way. But then that last bit I just said there, I feel like I've said this about so many players in the time that Klopp has been here, but just even in general, just since I support Liverpool, use this guy in the right way. I promise you, you'll see this guy. He'll do his thing. He'll do this. He'll do that, etc., etc. And we keep seemingly having this same kind of conversation about certain players, only certain players. We've seen it with Curtis Jones. We saw the type of player that he came through as. We all thought maybe he was going to battle for that left wing spot. Obviously, it was taken by Mane. He had to find a different position. Klopp utilized his skill set into a different position. Didn't
Curtis originally play 10 though? Didn't he?
Yeah, at 10. He could play everywhere. He played up front for the youth team sometimes, because he was just better than everybody else. But so I won't base too much of his game on, because that was kind of an easy level for him anyway. But when I'm looking at someone like a Curtis now, for example, he's a player who is not a first teamer. He's a squad player, you know, which is kind of a little bit deep for him. And
Right.
then what takes the biscuit is, even if we're going to call him a first teamer, we spent the entire summer signing players to replace him. We didn't have enough.
To replace Curtis Jones?
Yeah, to replace, of course. Like, we signed McAllister, we signed Szoboszlai, two players who play in the midfield area, shall I say. So then you're looking at it thinking, well, if you have faith in someone, just like we have faith in, say, Mo Salah, just like we say we have faith in Trent, same way we have faith in Robertson and Van Dijk and whatever, why would you sign another player to replace that player? You didn't sign a backup player. You didn't sign a player who's like, yeah, you know what, you signed literally someone who was literally a direct replacement for this guy. But Curtis did his job. He did his thing. He stayed in the first team. Curtis drops up a little bit, gets injured, has obviously the suspension and stuff like that. Someone else now comes in. Now the conversation is now switched. And this is the kind of thing that I'm seeing a lot with players that we're looking at. And we're like, someone mentioned in the chat about techie players, if that's what we want to call it. Like, we seem to have this kind of issue with these kind of players. It just seems like any kind of...
you can't even go by that, though. Only because I'm just saying you can't go by that only because I've heard the same things. We had players that were, you know, positional, like, as what's the word I'm looking for, like athletic players. Like, we had players that were workhorse style players, and people were like, oh, we need more techie style players. Now we got techie style players. Now people are like, oh, we need more workhorse style players. It's more of like...
It's the problem that you've got with that, and I agree, because people have been saying that. The problem that you've got is, it's not like we've gone from having an athletic style of play with athletic players to having technical players and playing a technical way of football. We've still kind of maintained the athletic style of football, but just now you've got technical players and you're trying to kind of fit them in. So you'll see Szoboszlai. What was the main thing that we saw with... What's the main thing that we kept seeing with Szoboszlai during his Gerrard phase when he first joined Liverpool? How much kilometers he's ran in games, his sprints in games. Never anything about his actual ability of actually playing football. Like, I never really heard anything about that. It was always about the physical side of the game, which is fine, not a problem. If he's good at it, let him do his thing. But I've got no issue necessarily with that. What then do we then hear about other players? McAllister hasn't really got the intensity, so to speak, to maybe necessarily play that six, whatever everyone deems a six should do, because everyone's got their own opinion. But that was the main thing. Oh, intensity, the sprints, the kilometers, and things like that. What we then attribute Endo. Endo's too slow for the game. Doesn't seem to be able to keep up with the pace of the game. This, that, and the third. And I'm like, but those players are quite, in my opinion, quite technical players. So surely you would just play a way that suits their style of play. And then, in my opinion, I don't know, in my opinion, you'll just see the best of these kind of players, potentially. Again, I don't know. So, but yeah, it is, but I agree with you. It is one of those things. People say one thing and it's another thing, but I do think
it's just a matter of like, it changes like the seasons. I mean, like, that's why when it comes to a lot of conversations that we have, I'm just like, as long as you can stay consistent with what you guys say, I can listen to you all day, and I can, even if your opinion is the same as mine. But I mean, you know, sometimes though, when you're dealing with opinions, I've heard people that were staunch Curtis Jones needs to go, and then all of a sudden Curtis Jones gets on this like run where he's getting some really great performances in there, and now all of a sudden, oh well, no, Curtis Jones needs to stay. I've always been about it, and you're like, you know, the internet never lies. Like, you know, it tells you where and what you had to say. But I mean, I can understand what you're getting at with a lot of the takes, but I also just always go back to the same sense of, look, it's a bad precedent to set when you're trying to necessarily compare former players that you're quote unquote replacing. I don't think that we are bringing these players in to replace necessarily these players per se. I think more so oftentimes you're bringing in players to compete with other players for positions. Okay. So I'm not necessarily saying, oh, well, I'm going to bring this player in because he's going to be, you know, the predecessor or the someone that's going to take over this role, or this is the guy that has to replace Henderson or has to replace Naby, you know, because realistically, we were bringing in, if we're going to say replacements, we were bringing these new players, these new midfielders in to replace, quote unquote, Naby, more so than Hendo originally. You know, I mean, we got McAllister before we ever let go of Henderson, before we ever let go of Fab. So it wasn't like we were getting those players to replace those players. If anything, we're bringing them to be either options or to compete for those positions with those players. And as far as Curtis Jones in his retribute, you know, Curtis spoke about it in an interview that he did with I forget, he did it with you know the interview I'm talking about, where
I think it's up there.
Yeah, like Liverpool, the club does these like really these interviews with like a past legend and an actual like commentator. And Curtis talked about the fact of like, you know, there were times and points where he started to like lose focus, or not lose focus, but lose hope, in the sense that he was going to actually like try to, or actually be a part of this club. You know, there's times, whether it was because of injuries, the random injuries that he had or whatever, but there were times when he was like, you know, starting to lose the hope and the pursuit of it. But, you know, this, for the same things that he talks about, for the same things that you heard Elliot speak about in an interview, a post-game interview, when he was sitting next to Mo Salah, he's sitting there going like, yeah, you know, there are players on this team that took me under their wing and said, hey, you're a part of this club. I see the time and talent that you have. Mo Salah is not going to take his time to help out Elliot, for instance, if he doesn't believe that this player has some real potential. You know, as far as Curtis Jones, you know, whether it was with Ginny or the other players, no one's going to really take those players under their wing unless they believe and see the talent. And if anything, you know, we get our little snippets of what we see them practicing in. But, you know, and a lot of the chat possibly knows as well. When you're on a club, when you play on a team, you know, you're having the unique ability to say, oh, I've seen what this player is like during practice. I know what he brings to the locker room. I understand what he's going to do when he gets onto that pitch. All these things, all these realms of familiarity are what create championship teams. And I like the fabric that we have in this club is something that I think people often overlook or understate. And that is having true, you know, players that not only buy into the system, but buy into the mentality, the culture, however you want to reference it. That's when you start to see results. And I mean, there are parts and points when you start losing and people start, you know, saying, oh, like start pointing fingers and everything else. That's one thing. But this club has always, whether it was, again, I love obviously listening to all these post interviews and such. But when Allison referenced the fact that this team is a real unit, this team is a real collective of believing in itself, no matter what, they will walk together. You know, that's what really matters. And that's the difference maker. I believe because that fabric exists, Dom will get through this. Hackbo will get through this. These spells. There are people that were saying the same about Diego. Okay. There are people that were actively saying about Diego, he had to go. He went on that long, albeit with the injuries were combined in there, but that long goal drought that he went through. And people were saying he needs to get out of here. And then all of a sudden he scored. And he scored again. And then he scored again. And it was one of those things where it just started to get back to, okay, yeah, I get it that you had a couple of wobbles on the bike, but it's like anything. If you know how to ride a bicycle, you can ride a bicycle. You'll get it down. And like, you know, that's what I really think about this team, is that these players are going to get it as long as they stay committed and focused, and they stay together as a unit and start fighting for not only each other, but for us, but each other as well. You're going to see differences in this club, and we're going to be a title contender. I honestly do believe that. I'm already on paper saying Europa quad, so I mean I know that, and I haven't forgot about our bet, Jerry. So it's all good.
Yeah, I was
you
going to get onto that, because obviously you said, look, you think Gakpo's obviously he's going to get through this route. Szoboszlai as well. Nunez.
Yeah. Let's get it.
I mean, 20 in the Prem is looking like a stretch.
It's looking like, I know it can look like a stretch, but then again, the player I just mentioned, Diego, If you had told me that Diego was going to be one of our top goal scorers with the considerable long, and I mean that was like what, 11 months? How long was the stretch that he went through?
It was 11 months, but it was coincided with the fact that he was injured, for about 7 months. Like he was gone for ages. So it wasn't 11 months of consecutive football.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But still, it was months, plural. You know, that he was going through stretches where he wasn't scoring enough that people were referencing that statistic. You know, and I get to say that I would have never thought that. Okay, well, I wouldn't say I've never thought. I actually did think that, but most people would have said, "Oh, we would have never thought that Diego was ever going to find that you know, that loving feeling again for that song." You know, and for all the Top Gun fans out there. So like, you know, like you never knew, or you never know what it is that's going to trigger that. And sometimes, and I referenced it earlier about Lewandowski. I'm not saying that you know, he's got a bunch of that Nunez is Lewandowski reborn or anything like that. But what I am saying is that players, whether they're the level of Lewandowski or whether they're the level of whoever you want to reference, these players, once they get that swing in, and once they understand how to keep it moving, and they just look past it, they will find that form. And I mean, like, I know that, yeah, it'll be great to have 20 goals from Nunez, which I'm still on that. I'm still holding fast to that. But look at the fact that Mo Salah is at the top of the league for GA right now. And a good reason why he's at the top of the league for the GA is because of Nunez. So, like, you got to keep that in mind.
Because of Nunez, I need to push back on that because, listen, Nunez isn't a player that can create for his own, create his own shot on a consistent basis. Neither is he a creative force in terms of finding Salah. There's been a couple of times where he's passed the ball to Salah and he's really, really close to Salah. So yes, he's passed him the ball, but again, he came into our club to be the number 9. We have changed the way we play to suit him. Bear in mind, we had Origi, who was physically, you could compare the two. They were both quite tall, both quite athletic. I would say Origi was a better finisher, but we opted to get rid of Origi and we brought in Darwin Nunez. The guy's going to be 25 next year. Mm-hmm. And players are still talking about him like he's this raw talent ready to explode.
It's his second year in the Prem, though. He's only played 4 years. He's only played 4 years of professional football.
That's fair, but there's a reason then why he's played 4 years of professional football at the age of 24. When we go and compare, you know, the best. And the reason why I compare him to the best is because I think Liverpool deserve the best when you're talking about forwards. The best at that age have never been for me as poor technically, had such a poor understanding tactically, had such poor touches, and have been so revered. So we go and talk about, you know, Henry was poor in Italy, but Henry was 18, 19. Do you know what I mean? Like 20 at max. We got to talk about Suarez. He had played 3-4 years professionally. The goals he scored in, the ability was there. Kun Aguero, Lewandowski, Kane, Haaland. The best strikers we talk about there's a clear indication to say, okay, this striker can be that guy. Nunez is not providing any of that. Yet he's the player that's having the most shots out of any player in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. He has the most chances out of any player in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. The second most missed chances in the Premier League. And usually the strikers that scored the most goals.
Who's first?
Haaland, but he scored 14 goals. Right. But he scored 14 goals. But usually...
I know. I'm not saying he has... I'm saying that he's missed a lot. He has missed a lot.
Yeah, and usually... Yeah, he's missed a lot. But he scored a lot. And usually
the strikers that scored... Let's be honest, Haaland has missed sitters.
That's fine. But he scored 14 goals.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
that's the problem. It's not missing the goals. He's
Mhm.
missing goals and not scoring goals. He doesn't help with link-up play. He's not
Ooh.
good at it.
Ooh.
Nunez isn't good. He's not good at it. Back to goal play isn't really good. And we've changed the way we play in order to accommodate a player that does not help the players that we've got currently, because I think they actually feed off having this false line. I think we've been designed, and even though we've tried to move away from it, I think we're still very much accustomed to having this false line, or having a player that we can pop the ball
Who
into.
would be accustomed
You know
to
it's
it,
going to
like,
stick.
Who's
Whether it was
because the only player that is really in that midfield or in the front line, for that matter, is what, Salah?
No, Salah was accustomed to it. Diaz was accustomed to it when he came in, because he had Mane doing the same thing, and Bobby was at the club. Bobby was one that done it. Gakpo then came in and also played in that same role. And Gakpo on the back end, when last season, when everyone's talking about how good Gakpo was, it was his transition from the left wing. When he first came in, his first couple of games, he went down the centre, and that kind of linked, and that was you could look at that and as a link to say, okay, look, Liverpool are now performing better. They've got someone now that can do that role. Right now, I think the players I think especially Salah. Salah is a player that I think would personally, I feel, would benefit from having a different style of striker as opposed to having a Nunez. I don't think Nunez helps Salah in any way.
What is that striker then? What is the role that you're thinking of as being necessary, considering that Nunez has 9 assists to Salah?
Okay. Yeah, 9 assists. No, but then you have to look at context, right? Salah passed the ball to, I don't know, Trent, or passed the ball to Elliot against Crystal Palace. Elliot done all the hard work and scored. That I don't look at that as, wow, Salah got another assist for Liverpool. Of course, it looks great on the stat sheet, but it's not a goal. He's passed the ball. Salah and Elliot had to drop the shoulder, cut inside, and finish the ball. There was still a lot of work to be done. I don't look at. Of course, there's a couple of assists in there where I'm like, okay, good assist from Nunez, good flick on from Nunez. But majority of the time, he's right next to Salah where he's passed the ball and Salah's gone and finished. For me, I don't look at those 9 assists to Salah as this creative output that you can go and replicate on a consistent basis, because you could have had Gakpo there and Gakpo would have made that pass. We would have had Firmino. Firmino would have made that pass.
But you didn't, and we still did. My point is this. I get it. Some people, again, this is going to be like this. Those of us that, whether it's Diaz, I'm a big supporter of Diaz, for instance, and Diaz often gets compared to Mane, and I still think that, like, they're 2 separate different players, yet we continue to compare them. You might be looking at it as, okay, well, Bobby used to give us obviously a more facilitator role in the striker role that he played. And not only did he give us a more facilitator role in that striker role, he was more Brazilian flair with his passes. I mean, some of the passes he made were like just ridiculous. Some of the best assists I've ever seen in my life. But all the same, you still have to make that pass. You still have to be that link person or connecting pass that makes it actually happen. Whether you believe to give that player the opportunity to go and be great, that means that, yeah, you at least thought that me giving this player the pass might result in something. It's not just, I'm just dumping it off just to dump it off.
But that's the difference. That's the difference.
Okay.
Especially when you go and play, receiving the ball and then having to go and pick out a pass. A great example in the United game, the pass got played into Nunez when he was out on the left. He had an overlapping run off Tsimikas, decided not to do it, stood there for 5 minutes on the ball, didn't know what to do, and just booted the ball at the defender. There was no creativity there. Didn't think of retaining the possession, didn't think of keeping the ball, didn't think of restarting play. Now, I don't compare him to Bobby Firmino because I know he's not that type of player.
Okay.
But we have changed our system to accommodate a player that's scoring 1 in 3. That is not good enough for a top 6 side. It's not. The player's 25 years old. He's not. You don't. We've seen it for years. There's no player that at 25, 26 emerges as this, wow, he is now this world-class striker after playing 6 years of top-flight football. It doesn't work. It has to happen in that point.
But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no, he's played 4, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt of a couple of seasons. He's not, in 2 years' time, we're not going to be looking at Nunez thinking, wow, we've got one of the best strikers, do you know what I mean, in the world. Wow, we've got a top world-class striker. I just do not see it. He doesn't have the tactical awareness to be able to go and do it. I don't think he has the IQ to do it. Technically, he's not sound. And yes, he has physical kind of attributes that you can go and look at positives.
Mm-hmm. Well, if he's not
those
sound,
are not the deal.
if he's not sound, and I disagree with your takes. I'm not saying that you're welcome to have your takes. Obviously, I'm welcome to have mine. Obviously,
you could disagree. No, that's good.
But all the same, I disagree with your take on that he's bad, that he's a bad player, or that he has no skills with his back to the ball, back to the goal. Excuse me, or those kinds. Because I think if anything, Bielsa in Uruguay has somewhat emphasized that and brought that portion of his game out somewhat more, and it's been actually correlating to his play with Liverpool, and that's why we have seen him have a little bit more confidence in getting in receiving the ball with his back to the goal. And if you're going to say, oh well, he's not technically this, he's not technically that, or technically this, okay, albeit everyone's welcome to their opinion, but again. And I know international, we were supposed to have a show, me and you were supposed to have a show, international versus club. But I'm still hoping we get that opportunity to do it. But when it comes to when I see him playing international, and again, I understand people go, oh, well, that's international play versus club. I'm just trying to get across the fact that, one of the biggest reasons why people were so enamored with Mac was because of his play in the freaking World Cup. All right. And if we're going to reference players, we're going to have to put in the fact that international play is a testament of their ability to play football, correct? And he has been a really influential piece of Uruguay in the sense of them performing well over beating Argentina, and him scoring in that game, for instance. The fact that Uruguay has actually performed overachieved, if anything, because of the emergence of a Nunez as their starting striker. Now, I get we can all hate on the player because now we're talking about, well, how does he fit in the Klopp system? I understand that. And what we're seeing with Nunez in the Klopp system is now you have, I think, a budding relationship between Mo Salah and Nunez. And I think if you drop in the whether it's Trent or whether it's Dom into that triangle that you normally see in most tactical breakdowns, I think that is a powerful and a powerful triangle to create in the men's stuff. You have a player that can outpace pretty much anyone in the Premier League. So if you give them an opportunity through balls or something on those lines, that chances that Nunez will be able to outpace or outrun whoever it is that he's competing with. And the sheer fact that defenses have to keep in mind that there is such a chaotic, dynamic, however you want to reference it, striker in Nunez, the potential of Nunez getting worldlies or getting great goals in a la Newcastle, like a Newcastle situation, you then know that it might create space for Salah. It might create space for Diaz.
But that's the problem. We've spent 70 million on someone that you're telling me has come into the club to create space.
No, I'm saying that
because what I'm saying
is just to create space. I'm not
no, of course, but
I'm saying that's an actual attribute to create other opportunities.
No. 100%, and that's a given. Making runs isn't always to go and get the ball; it's to go and create space. That's a given. But Nunez's ability to convert is a worrying issue. We speak about Uruguay. We also have to understand that Uruguay are probably in the worst situation they've been in for the last decade. They've lost the likes of Cavani, lost the likes of Forlan in the last 15 years, lost the likes of Suarez. Do you know what I mean? They've got an aging defense with the likes of Godin and co. So Nunez coming into that team, Bielsa is looking this Uruguay team, as you said, that they're probably overachieving based on what they are. And that's as a result of them sitting back and teams not respecting the team. Henceforth, there's a lot of space. When you play for a top six side, that space isn't there. So your ability to go and use your pace constantly isn't always there. Now, the way Klopp tries to go and play, again, we try to go and play in transition. But if teams crap onto that and sit back and you can't convert your dinner, that is going to be a massive, massive problem. And when you've already got a player in Salah that, you know, for the most part, yes, he's been asked to go and do a different role in terms of create more chances. And that's not necessarily the best area of his game. If Salah at his best is in between the two boxes, out to in runs, in my opinion,
right,
finishing.
Right.
When you've got that, you're taken away from Salah's game. Nunez coming in means that you have to focus the play around Nunez. Now, when you look at Nunez at Benfica, a lot of his goals were wingers getting down the byline, crosses into the box. Nunez is there, or crosses along the ground. First man runs and he's finishing. Again, space. If there's no space, Nunez isn't effective because he hasn't got the ability, in my opinion, to go and link up correctly. Hence why you go and look at the teams that when we've played against the low block, Nunez has been quite poor. Nunez has had to, do you know what I mean? Nunez is getting touches, or the ball's bundling under his feet, or you look at the stats and it's like it's every single game. In the games where he's done really well, you go back to Tottenham last season. What was it? We weren't beat. Tottenham didn't respect us. There's loads of space. We can pump a ball long and Nunez can run after it. You can find pace anywhere. We have signed a striker to be that. When you spend that amount of money on a striker, we have to obviously assume that this striker is going to be here for a long time. Salah is going to leave soon. He needs to be the one that takes that mantle. And I just don't see, I've never seen in the history of football a player with poor technical attributes suddenly gain them. It just doesn't happen. And when you look on the face of football, he is lacking technically. Of course, he has raw attributes in terms of his pace, his height, his size that can aid him.
Right.
But in a team in a team like Liverpool, especially the top six, you need to have more minerals than that. And I just personally feel like he doesn't have the minerals. Hence why when I look at, like a great example, we speak about IQ. In the game against United, the ball breaks inside the box after Diaz coming in and looking at a foul. And he stands there and calls for a penalty instead of trying to go and get the ball and retain possession and score whatnot.
Sure.
Those types of instances for me are where I'm like, that's where you're lacking it. Kane would have never done that. Suarez would have never done that. Kunagüero would have never done that. And again,
would never ask for a foul? Yes.
No. It's not about asking for, it's not about asking for a foul. But when the game's in play, he would have done anything to go and score. Sturridge would have never done that. And that's my point. When you have former players like Robbie Fowler talking about, hey, we've got to start looking at this player. And this is a player that us as Liverpool fans call God because of his ability to go and finish and score goals. You have to take what he's saying. And not as gospel truth, of course, but you have to look at it and be like, actually, there is something in that. Because
so then why wouldn't you take Fowler as a God? I get that. And look, there's and I would say it's again. I apologize for interjecting so much.
No. Go ahead.
My pushbacks is because, again, you mentioned Cavani. Absolutely. You know what his nickname? Do you know what Darwin's nickname is in Uruguay?
Yeah, La Pantera. Yeah, the Panther.
No, that's his new nickname. His original nickname is the next Cavani. That was his original nickname. Okay, because that's what the people in Uruguay, not me, not us, not those in Europe, not us, and not myself in America. I'm talking about the people in Uruguay referenced him as the next Cavani. That was his nickname growing up. Okay. And it's the reason why Cavani was so high on him as well. But even more so, you spoke about a Fowler as being when it comes to Liverpool and being a scoring god. You know what? Let me reference another scoring phenomenon, because he's not a god in any way, but anyway, because of his racist tendencies. But all the same, Suarez, Suarez thinks extremely. He has taken Nunez and said the reason why he's now a part of why he's come back to be a full time member of the Uruguay squad. You know, to put emphasis on it, because Suarez is at a period in his career, in his life, where he could just stay in Miami and just chill. He doesn't have to. He's done his accolades. He's done his time for Uruguay and the national team. But he understands the fact that he is the future for Uruguay. Nunez is the future for Uruguay, and he understands the fact that Suarez is the most was the most coveted striker or a scoring threat that Uruguay has seen in a long time. So therefore, again, I mentioned it about Elliott and Salah, and there's plenty of people that don't think that Elliott should even be on this team, or much less get a shot to even be on this team, for instance. But there's reasons why Salah said Elliott has ability, and I want to help bring that out of him. It's the same reason why I'm bringing up Suarez, because Suarez sees the ability in Nunez, something that you and I don't get the privilege of seeing, which is
but we also have to take away the bias from. Sorry to interject, but we have to take away the bias from that. Like you're talking, like you said, if they're viewing him as like, look, I'm Ghanaian. Christian Atsu was called the next Messi, the Ghanaian Messi. Like,
who was? I'm sorry. Say it one more time.
Christian Atsu, rest in peace. Christian Atsu, former Newcastle player, was called the Ghanaian Messi. Like
the Ghanaian Messi.
The Ghanaian Messi, he was. This is my point. Like he was called when in the under-17 World Cup, he broke records in terms of he won Ghana the under-17 World Cup. He was in that squad. He was called the Ghanaian Messi.
But he's not called the next. He wasn't called the next Messi. He was called the Ghanaian. Ghanaian.
Yeah. The next.
I said the next.
I'd rather be called the Ghanaian
Messi.
Yeah, but if I'd rather be called the Ghanaian Messi than the next Cavani. I mean, Cavani isn't.
No. I'm saying I'd rather be called. How about this? I'd rather be called the next Messi than the American Messi, for instance.
Yeah,
that's my point.
No,
we're now saying, great, you're a Messi for maybe America, or maybe you're a Messi
not for America. They were saying he will be as good as Messi, but he's Ghanaian. Okay, of course, Ghanaians are going to put that. For me, look, Cavani. Like I would like to see what strikers say about Darwin Nunez and an objective striker. So if you went and asked, when you guys speak to Henry as an example, they say, yeah, he's got raw ability, but he has to work on his technical level and they're not sure if he can reach it. Mm-hmm. Cavani and Suarez speaking on Darwin Nunez, I've got to be honest. It's, you know what I mean? If G son was playing football, G would call him, do you know what I mean? The next Suarez or something like. I'd need an objective.
My son is going to be better than Suarez.
That's my point. Like, I'd need an objective point in it. There has to be some level of objectivity. Now you've got Fowler that's talking from a Liverpool fan perspective, because that's what he is right now, even though he's a former player. Suarez is someone that has a direct connection to Darwin Nunez. It's completely different. He's not going to throw.
Well, he's got a direct
teammate under
Suarez
the bus.
does show love. I mean, despite the fact that he did turn somewhat by going to Barca, he does have love for Liverpool. I mean, it's the reason why Steven Gerrard still has a very he does. He does. But his affinity to Darwin is much more close. Like Robbie Fowler has no affinity to Darwin Nunez. I think when I look at it, I have never ever seen in football a player what costs 70 plus, especially when he's your marquee striker and you're still waiting for him to. He's about to explode. He's this raw talent that's about to pop off. It's never happened. It's like you cannot name me another striker in world football. You're right. You're right. No, you're spot on.
And at the time,
$70 million striker, $70 million, 70 million strike, 70 or whatever. Yeah. What was the price again exactly?
I think it's $7 million or something. It's something like that.
Okay, like that. Right. Because you're right. You're absolutely right. $70 million for a striker is a lot of money. It's not the level of money that you see for like your bigger names or your more renowned, world accomplished names that you see, because then I could go, yeah, well, how is Mudryk, right, doing for Chelsea, or how is Anthony doing for United? Yeah, I understand they're not playing. I understand they're not strikers, but I'm just saying
that's my point.
But they're also high expensive players that haven't even come close to the production that Nunez has. And if you're going to say that, if you're going to tell me Anthony or Mudryk are on the level of Nunez in production, then I definitely like to see
but again, is the production due to Nunez, or is it due to the fact that Liverpool have always been a team that's going to create chances? Liverpool have always created chances since Klopp has come in. Liverpool's, in terms of chance creation, have been top 5 in every single season, minimum.
Yeah, but
You're now inputting a player in, and that is Darwin Nunez. That you're now you've changed the system around, and you're focusing all your play through this player who is now getting the most chances. It's not like you went and had it 4 seasons ago when Darwin Nunez wasn't here. It was Salah and Mane that would have had the most chances. Now we've changed, and now it's Salah and Darwin Nunez. So he's still having the most chances. Salah's actually changed his role in order to then accommodate Darwin Nunez.
I don't know if he has the most. Yeah, he has a lot of chances for sure. But
he's got
also,
he doesn't
get nearly out of the top. So out of our front 3, for instance, and again, I love stats. You love stats. You love stats too. Who would you say gets the most touches from our normal starting front 3? If we're going to say, let's say Diaz, let's say Nunez.
But touches or chances? But touches or chances, because that's completely different.
Well, I'm just saying touches, just touches, just in the same touches.
Will be Salah.
I'll move the chances, but I'm moving touches. Okay, so Salah, and then who would you say is second?
Probably Diaz in terms of touches.
Right. So you were facilitating more through them. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have the option then to utilize Nunez as the scoring threat that they want to, but you're now talking about 2 players, especially Mo Salah, who's an inside forward, that's going to gravitate and want to get his chances as well. He's going to want to get his chances. And also Diaz, who, if anything, needs to take more shots, I think personally, than he does already. Okay. So I can understand what we're all saying, but we're also talking about a front line that doesn't necessarily look to feed this player like a Haaland. KDB's purpose. I think Haaland is the focus of where they're for the 115. That's the focus of their attack. They said, just like I saw in the chat, give 100 chances to Haaland. Doesn't matter. He bags 54. Yeah, because that's the focus. It doesn't matter how many times he misses. They're just trying to get the ball to Haaland because chances are he's going to score 1, if not 2.
No, but they don't. No, but that's disingenuous, because they don't give the ball to Haaland deep in the box. They give the ball to Haaland, and if you looked at the touches, Haaland's got the least touches out of Man City, and that's a fact. Okay. There was actually a stat last season where in a game he had 7 touches but scored a goal. He had 7 touches in the whole game.
Right.
So
but that's the comparison of what I'm trying to make, is that as a striker, you're probably not going to get the most touches unless you're a facilitator like Bobby. Bobby got a lot of touches because he was looked to create for his inside forwards. Okay. Nunez isn't necessarily that guy to be looking to create for Diaz, nor is he looking to create for Salah. It just so happens the byproduct that he is creating for Salah. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get across. And that I would love to see Diaz take more opportunities, take more shots, and be more clinical with his shots. But Diaz isn't getting as many opportunities as Salah is. When it comes to Diaz it's not that Diaz, or for instance, Salah is getting past the ball from Nunez. I know you don't like the way that ends up being an assist for him, but all the same, like it ends up being an assist because Nunez is looking for Mo to take those shots. But as opposed to Diaz isn't taking those shots per se the same way Mo is. Diaz is more so being the creative off the ball. Like, I'm going to take the ball, I'm going to dribble, I'm going to make something happen and take on players. That's a different role. So a lot of the facilitation that you're seeing from Nunez is going towards the right because he's feeding Mo. Would I like to see him feed Diaz? Absolutely. But then again, I would like to see Nunez eat more. So that's what I'm trying to get across, is the touches are going to the wingers primarily. And it's their decisions upon whether they're going to feed Nunez, because Nunez is obviously feeding Salah at the moment. He's not necessarily, but whether he ends up Diaz the same is a different story. But I'm trying to get across that that's the reason why I brought up the touches and not necessarily the chances as you're referencing.
You know what's mad? Listening to you guys talk about Nunez, I feel like this whole conversation, all I'm really hearing is we're talking about a lot of the things that he's good and bad at.
Right.
But I'm not hearing but he's a goal scorer and it will just come in time. Like, I'm mostly just hearing he creates chances for others, he runs around a lot, he facilitates this person, which is all true. Not to say that it isn't true, but it is a bit like what Jerry said. Into obviously anything can happen, by the way. Like, we could all be sitting here and he might just turn into this demon in the next like 2 seasons. I don't know, but
people have been calling him the demon already. G.
Yeah, no.
No.
But like, if I'm just like playing the field, that could that is still a possibility to actually happen. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. But the reality is, and I'm not even trying to put him on a pedestal of like these top strikers that you guys have mentioned, the Kanes, Lewandowskis, the Fowlers. Like, forget all of those guys are those guys are natural born strikers that we all saw from early ages that were going to be good strikers. We're not obviously seeing that necessarily with Nunez, and that's where I have the issue, is that we've not really seen it, but for some reason people believe that it will happen based off of, it can only be said, one season. If obviously what 12 Man is saying about he's only been playing professional football for 4 years, and in that 4 years time there's only been one season where we can attribute him being an absolute demon in front of goal. Again, not a problem. So we've seen one season of him being a demon, and all the other 3 not so much, whatever, for whatever reason, young, coming through the game, whatever. But yet somehow we feel like he's going to turn into this lethal goal scorer, whatever. But we're seeing now a guy who's, even with these less touches that he's having, still second biggest chances missed in the Premier League, got 4 goals, and we talk more about his physical game than we actually just talk about him scoring. That's why when the person put that stat up there about Haaland missing all those chances, why do you think nobody would even care? Because I don't think anyone would care if Salah's got 7, I think, big chances missed in the Premier League.
He's third in the league.
You know what I mean? He's up there. I know he's joint with like Mbeumo and all these kind of guys. But when I'm looking at Nunez, the touches and all of that is, even to me, is just even irrelevant, because he's actually getting chances. It's not like a Haaland situation, or not even a Haaland, because Haaland still gets chances. But it's not like a situation where he's not even getting chances. He's barely touching the ball. He's getting 1 chance a game, and he's just not scoring. Fair enough. Then you'd be like, you have to add context. This guy is getting our most chances in the entire team. It's not falling to Mo. It's falling to him, and he's not scoring. And he's not. And it doesn't even. If you look at the ratio, 4 to, I think it's 15. Someone's just said there, 15 big shots. That ratio is not good. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's having to take you 4 shots for you, or 4 big chances for you to get a goal. Like right now, that doesn't scream to me that like that's a striker who I can say, yeah, you know what, I can see something in that. 1 in 4 big chances, not even just 1 in 4, just 1 in 4 big chances. There are still other chances that he's still having. It's not like he's just missing big chances. He's missing other chances as well as those that he maybe could score, possibly should score, a decent striker might score, kind of thing. But we'll just use the big chances just for this statistic right here. That's the issue for me. So when people talk about Darwin Nunez and say he's this, that, and the third, I'm like, that's fine. That is absolutely fine. But you cannot sit here and say that the guy has not been given opportunity time and time again to at least show that you can be a goal scorer of consistent rate. We're not asking for Mo's numbers. I'm not asking for that. I don't care how much he costs. I'm not asking for him to score me 50 goals in a season, because he's not a generational player. That's only for generational players like Haaland. He's nowhere near that type of realm, and that's fine. I'm not asking for that. But I am asking to be a little bit more consistent, that you can't, like, for me, it's criminal that you have 15 big chances and your goal tally in the Premier League is 4. So now what we've got to do is we've got to now say, but look at his assists, because we know he can't score enough goals. If I showed you Kylian Mbappe, who is a generational player, he's got 2 assists this whole season. 2 assists in the whole season. He's got 2 assists. He's got 19 goals. Harry Kane has got 8 assists and he's got 24 goals. Right. But nobody cares about their assists because they're scoring goals. We don't even care the assists. Why? Because they are scoring. I'm sure if I check, they've probably got dozens of missed chances as well on top of that. But we don't care because they're scoring so many goals. And it's just like with Nunez, that's always going to be his problem. If that conversion rate could potentially change in that second half of the season, I promise you, people will start to maybe see what other people are seeing in the whole Darwin Nunez thing, if that is to change. Like, so if he gets to 30 big chances missed, but I don't know, he's now on 10 to 15 kind of goals, no problem. Okay, cool. He's getting me the goals. Let's just keep it going and let's see how it's going to do. But at the moment, you know, to say you've got 4 goals, I can't sit here and say I'm sitting here in hope, if I'm being totally honest with you, to say, is this going to be another Suarez, or am I looking at, I won't even say Andy Carroll because it's not that bad, but am I looking at just another like Origi kind of thing? And even Origi just didn't even get chances to even play.
Okay. I do have so my pushback is this: one, big up to Divock Origi, as in, you know, Lord Divock. I have no hatred at all for Divock. But then again, Divock, and when I hear Divock and Nunez comparisons, one, Divock was settled and okay with being a bench role player. You know, and that's something, and like, as in being an iconic player that he was, and that, you know, that he served for us, I'm happy with that. There's no way that I would ever think that, or would ever try to utter the essence of Nunez is accepting or willing to just be a role player, much less a bench player. I don't think that's in his mindset. I think he wants to be a starter. I think he wants to be a starter, and his pursuit to be a starter. I'll let you finish. His pursuit to be a starter is a driving role in his life, in his play, in his life per se, as opposed to Origi was just fine with being what it was.
You have to add context. You have to add context to that.
What's the context then?
Nunez, now that you see, would he have made the front 3 that we had before? Salah, Firmino, and Mane. Would he have been a starter in that team? If we just based on everything you've seen of Nunez right now, would you have said that at whatever point?
Technically, he was a starter at some points, you know, when Bobby.
No, but in terms,
Champions League final, the Champions League final. Yeah, I mean, or big game against Man City. Origi
I mean, he came off the bench in the Champions League final anyway. But anyways, I'm talking about.
That's my point.
Yeah. I'm talking about.
Well,
you've not added any context to that. You've said, but by the way, the first part, what you said is right. He was happy with being a bench player. I get that, but he also understood that there's 3 players I'm not ever realistically going to replace, no matter what. We've seen Origi play games in the season that we even talk about Origi scoring those important goals. Guess what happened? He went straight back to the bench, because he had to go back to the bench, because that was the role, because we had Bobby, Mane, and Salah. I do not see where Nunez would have been able to have said, I want to be a starter in this front line. Like where would he have gone? He wouldn't have usurped any of those 3, so he would have had to. But
can't you argue though that he does bring a different aspect of the game? I understand. This is one thing I so often emphasize when I get into these conversations, and that is, I believe that teams, and again, this is why I give props to Divock. Teams have to have players that have this definitive roles that they can fill, definitive, I don't have to bring out the pauses. That's what I'm trying to make sure I get the right wording. But you know, definitive roles that they have to play on teams for teams to be great teams. Okay. I'm not saying that we have a team of Galacticos or something like that, where every last player, top to bottom, all 11 starting 11 players are the best in their class, or in their role / class, period. You know, but why I always emphasize about the direction that I'm hoping and continuously preaching about, the fact that I do foresee Nunez on, is that he's been a professional technically for 4 years. He had 2 years at Benfica, like you mentioned, and now this is his second year at Liverpool. This first year, again, Jerry was going into some of the goals that he was scoring for Benfica, but you got to recognize the fact that he scored over 30 goals that year for Benfica. Okay, so it's not like we're talking about some player that scored a couple or a handful of goals here and there. 34, I think it was 34 goals, right? Or something along those lines.
33, I think 33, but yeah, 33, okay. I think, but yeah.
So like, if you're referencing something like that, that means a player is scoring. It's not like he can't score. Okay, he doesn't. It's not like he
But we're
can't
not saying he
find-
can't score. Though. I'm not saying he can't score goals.
Okay, but what I am saying is that his first year at Benfica was very similar to the first year that he witnessed at Liverpool, in the sense of numbers-wise alone, it was almost exactly the same. Okay, almost exactly the same. Goal output, assist output, exactly the same. But what you did see from the second year was a second-year professional player, technically, okay, or top tier player as we're referencing it, be more infused, more in tune with the Benfica system that created for him, and he actually did produce. Leaps, hands, and bounds above what he produced in his first year. The reason why I made the saying that he's going to do the same here is because, again, we saw the same numbers that he produced at Benfica at Liverpool in his first year at Liverpool. But I absolutely think one of the difference makers is that whether it's Pep or whether it's Klopp, whichever you want to reference, I believe that under their tutelage, and now with Bielsa, like I was saying, for Uruguay, you're going to see when these types of coaches are going to be able to take what they've seen, whatever was going on for him in Portugal, they're seeing a player that they honestly do believe that they can bring the best out of. They can show or have this player learn and grow under their tutelage. And I believe that we are going to see that. Uruguay is actually seeing this come to fruition. He's having some great runs with Uruguay. You can't.
So you think he will score 34 goals?
Can't dismiss it. You look at Uruguay. I know that you guys don't necessarily watch a lot of like your South American play, but I do. And the reason why is because I have, I'm on this side of the hemispheres. So I watch a lot of South American football, and I watch obviously a lot of American football. And you're seeing that in the player. You're seeing progression, not regression, progression with this player. Liverpool, same thing. He's starting to bring some of those characteristics back with them from Uruguay, but also Klopp and his influence is going to have an active role in his progression. That's what I'm hanging my hat on. I'm hanging my hat on the fact that I believe that Klopp can create great players. And if you don't think that, then I don't know if you watch, not you two, but if you don't think that, I don't know if you watch Liverpool, because considering, well, at least this era, because there weren't any real world-class talents that Klopp got, as a world-class talent that didn't, under his tutelage and his era, become world-class talents. We're talking about your Manes, we're talking about your Salahs, we're talking about your Bobbies, we're talking about these players, your Fabinhos. We're talking about these players that came to Liverpool and under Klopp's tutelage developed into world-class talent. I just say the same recognition, that we're seeing, the same, leeway or like, a little bit of grace period, that's the best word for it, that we gave to a lot of those other players. I would like to say that, yes, I'm willing to give Nunez that grace period, and I'm not looking for him to be the next Bobby. I fell into that same role of saying at one time, I hope that he could become the next El Nino, to be honest with you, because when you look at a lot of the highlight reels that they were bringing out against him, they were showing El Nino goals, and you can YouTube this. They were showing El Nino goals, and then they were showing Nunez goals, and they were the same thing. It was like the same ability to utilize. I heard the dinks and all that kind of like maneuverability and finesse and everything else. He was doing those same roles as an El Nino was doing. And if we can utilize, and one thing that was great about El Nino, and one thing that once it was taken away from El Nino, you saw that it completely impacted his game, was the pace. So despite the fact that I understand that everyone wants to say, oh, well, you can't teach this, you can't teach that, pure ability is sometimes something that just players or people have. And I think that Nunez has that in him, that raw talent you guys keep referencing. That's something that I believe that Klopp can bring the best out of, or can refine into, and get the rough edges out and create a true diamond. And that's something that I really think is an opportunity this year. And that's why I made that prediction in saying, if he can produce the way he produced at Benfica, which is 1 year of learning the system, second year of really blossoming, he came into this system the same way at Liverpool. 1 year of learning the system. This second year now, he's going to be taking it on. Let's see it happen. And I think that despite the fact that, we're not getting the results immediately right at this moment, I think that once it happens, once we get that Diego moment, for instance, that I referenced earlier, I think you're going to get. I think Nunez is going to surprise. Nunez is going to have you guys on some podcast. Mine, hopefully too. To saying.
Listen,
I mean, put it this way. I'll definitely come up, regardless, but I don't see that happen.
But we'll see. No.
Listen. Look, like I said, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I've seen some crazy stuff in football. I don't want to go on for too much longer. What's your grace period for Nunez then, in terms of when do you get to a point where, like other fans, where you're just going to be like, okay, it's getting too much now, or do you even have a point, or is it just really just keep going until it just clicks at some point in time?
Okay, so with the unique thing about Liverpool, I think too, being a big club, at least the unique thing about being a big club is that you do have to always refresh. You do have to always bring in new players. You do have to always try to facilitate. One unique thing about our club, I think, and it's something that I was alone in saying earlier, but now some people are getting on the train here, and that is that we have the unique ability of seeing a lot of these youth players come into or be a part of this team and take on roles that normally they would have never been able to do. I think the best thing for us this year was having Europa, personally, because I think that Europa has given our youth players a lot of time to actually develop and grow and see and be on these playing fields that have been able to push their progression a little bit further along than we expected, whether it's Kwanzaa, or a player like that. And also is allowing for some of these players that aren't in form or need to get in form opportunities to get in form. Like when Cody right now, for instance, is playing more of the Europa games, for instance, because he needs to find form. He needs to get back from the injury. He needs to do those things. We wouldn't have had those graces if we're in the Champions League. That's why I'm bringing up that point. Mm-hmm. But even going further into it with Nunez, how much time is it that I would give him? Well, I would often say that there is going to be another player. We're going to go out for another striker. Not that it's to replace Nunez. It might be just to create competition for him. Okay. Whether Cody does amount into being that competition for him and we just stick with that, okay, that's one thing. But Cody also is a versatile player enough, just like Nunez, that he can play left wing or striker. So chances are we have been in talks or have been mentioned in talks of being in line for getting another striker. Am I saying that striker is coming in to replace Nunez? No. But I will say that I think that the emphasis of Klopp and utilizing him now, especially in giving him this run of starts, this really long run of starts, finally, he's putting his money on, hey, I'm going to allow for this Nunez bet to either pay off or I'll just end up going broke on it. But at the same time, he has an insurance bet by, yes, he's going to further develop Cody, or yes, he might bring in another player that could help or could, as you guys referenced, replace, whatever it might be. But I'm willing to give them, I'm willing to say, I want to see this player, this dynamic player, actually get the opportunity to be refined into a diamond.
All right, so just to summarize then, I think this would be the best bit to obviously finish on. Do you think, and it's about more so about the game, do you think that this United game was a blip, or do you think this was something that will be repeated through the season? Do you think Liverpool are still on course to be title challengers, or was this game an indicator to show that, look, we may have got ahead of ourselves in terms of the schedule that we thought we were on, and we're still in our kind of development stage where we may end up third, fourth in the Champions League, but it's the kind of foundation to then build on it for next year?
I think that I think that it's not necessarily a blip in that rivalry games, whether you're on form or not, it's a rivalry game. So therefore, it's very hard to distinguish what you can honestly say or dictate how your form is in regards to a rivalry game. You know how all of our derby games go with Everton. Everton is not even close to our level, but yet, there are times and periods that we've had to look at Everton and say, okay, we know it's going to be a fight. We know it's not going to be a high scoring game, despite us having immensely greater and better talent on our team than Everton does. Yes, you have to look at those aspects. So when it comes to this game against United, who's even more, even equally, if not more so, coveted rivalry, I think a rivalry matchup, I don't think of it as like, oh, this is a testament of what Liverpool is and will be, and that's that. I don't think that at all. If anything, rivalry matchup. And that's the reason why I said that. That's the reason why I'm calling them the Blue Devils right now. Like as in this game was a game that they came in and we just didn't finish our dinner. How many games have we said that we've had 34 shots again? How many games have we said that? That's not something that could be a blip maybe, but if anything, because I mean, like, there's very few times that we get that many cracks at goal. There's not many times that you're going to say you had close to 70% of the possession. There's not many times you're going to get to say that. It's not many times you're going to say that the opposing team had 6 shots and only 1 on goal. There's not many times you're going to have to absolutely say that. Because if anything, people were lambasting our defense before. The last couple of games, people have been criticizing our defense. I think if anything, in the Manchester United, if we're going to utilize the Manchester United as a pivotal, this is how our team is, and we're going to just base it on that, then we have one of the best defenses in the league. Then period. So I look at it as this United game was a blip. If that, it's something that none of us really thought of. United was going to come out and do what they did. I think they benefited, truthfully. I think they benefited by Bruno not being a part of the team. They benefited by Maguire not being a part of the team, in that those are namely, or even Rashford starting in the game, because those are 2, if not 3 players that would have heard what Seven Hogg said and still said, I'm going to do what I want to do. And that would have resulted in different results in the pitch. They had 11 players that weren't going to speak up or act out of line, and they played their role, and they accomplished it on a day that we just couldn't eat our dinner. So I'm not looking at it as such. I'm looking at it as it's a blip. Now, whether our next 2 games are more important, because the next 2 games, I think personally, we're going to be able to see, are we going to be able to go into a cup game that normally we would have just put some B squad or put some youth players, and just hope for a result? Or are we going to try to utilize the strength of depth, get a result from West Ham at home, and then go on to possibly one, if not, it's certainly a bigger, in my opinion, a bigger matchup for us in Arsenal at home, and that result is a more benchmarker as to the way our season will be going.
Cool. G?
I think Liverpool have been playing like this for time. So it was about time that we dropped points for playing poorly. You know what I mean? It was just one of those kind of things. It's due to catch up with you at some point in time. You can't keep playing as poorly as we have, in my opinion, and just keep saying, it's great that we can keep winning games and blah, 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 which is good. But, at some point in time, it has to catch up with you. And that was just one game. But 12 is right. It's the next 2 games that you look at. That's when I can call it a blip, in terms of, let's say, as an example, you lose the next 2 games or you don't win the next 2 games. Then that's a blip. Like that, you'd have to consider that to be a mini blip, so to speak, in terms of, where we're at. That'll be 4 games that we wouldn't have won in, as an example. That's when you're like, oh, okay, we need to rectify something within that. But at the moment, it's just one of those where I'm just like, with how we've been playing, it's the December period. It's been busy. it just caught up with us. We can't just keep getting lucky. It can't just always be wonder goals, 4 wonder goals in one game, and Elliot coming off the bench to score in the 90-something minute. Like, I just don't think it's, that can continuously keep happening. So this is where you go against West Ham, you see how it is. I don't know what team is going to put out. I haven't heard any news or anything like that. So that's going to be interesting. But as you said, 12th, it's that Arsenal game against the current league leaders. In my opinion, probably the first or second best team that I've seen really as an overall package this season. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see. It really is this next 2 games that I'm really looking at Liverpool to really say, okay, let's see what happens from here. Are we real pretenders, or is this just one of those kind of things?
Right.
But it's a long season as well, man. So it's one of those. But that performance, it was deserved, because we've not deserved it in other games, in my opinion, but we've got the goal and we've got the win. That caught up with us, and now we're here. So let's just wait the next couple of games. Let's just see how it goes. So,
yeah.
There we go, man. There we go. But look,
you can't speak out about saying your opinion. Come on, Jerry.
My opinion.
Yeah. People are here because of you.
Yeah, I've got to echo what G's saying. I don't think the performances have been convincing this season, but as long as, I guess, it's this tricky one, because when Liverpool are winning, you can't really say anything. So regardless of what you're saying, it's like with I compare it to like Rocky, right? Rocky's style in boxing was always terrible, always got punched up, no defense, all of this, but he always ended up being a winner, right?
Right.
When you lose, you look at it and you're like, you've done everything wrong. Like, you're conceding, you're conceding punches, you're getting countered. And I feel it's the same thing with Liverpool. Liverpool, although very, very potent going forwards, have been susceptible at the back, and we've relied on Alisson for a large portion of this season. So our performances, I don't think, have been as well-rounded as they have been in the past. Now, because of how the league's been, we haven't had to be like that. But I don't want to use that as an excuse to say, okay, the league's not like that, or Arsenal and Man City aren't really performing well right now, so we can take our foot off the gas and we can be okay. I think we should still strive for better performances and more consistent performances as opposed to and try to marry that with the results. Because if we had a good performance but lost against or drawn against Man United, I don't think there would be this kind of backlash or this kind of inquiry into what's kind of going on, whether it's on socials, on YouTube or whatever. So for me, again, as you said, 12, the 2 games are very, very important now. If we lose these 2 games, then it really puts into perspective. Yeah, it puts into perspective what's going on. I personally feel, though, that this was a very good game to go into and win, because it puts you in a better position when you're going up against Arsenal. What you've done right here is shown as a chink in your armor, especially at Anfield. If we had drawn at Old Trafford, that's still a different scenario for me. At Anfield, it's you've drawn against a team you should have been beating,
right?
Regardless of how they've set up. They're in a really, really poor state. Haven't got their captain. A lot of injuries. Marcus Rashford didn't start, and you weren't able to capitalize on that. If I was a player, I'd be looking at that and saying, that's giving me confidence. That right there is giving me confidence, because maybe Liverpool aren't as strong as maybe we would perceive in the first instance. So, but look, we win. It'll be a different conversation there. Or if we not even necessarily win, if we put in a really, really good performance against it in the next 2 games, then I'll be looking at us differently. I'll be like, oh, okay. Put a statement performance in there. I'll kind of assess where Liverpool are based off of that. But look, it's been a proper late one for us as well. Yeah, I know, obviously, on your side of the pond.
It's dinner time for my side. But
time, exactly.
Hey, look at it this way: we're still undefeated technically. I mean, like in my mind, we're still undefeated, despite the fact that we got robbed. In that one L that we have.
And that's the positive thing to go and look at. So we're still only 1 loss against Spurs. So exactly, that's
with the asterisk.
Exactly with the asterisk. But look, thank you so much guys for tuning in. It's been a late one. I haven't done one of these in a long time, but obviously I appreciate G for coming on as always. 12th one as well. Really, really happy to go and have you on. please send out an invite, obviously, for your channel, and obviously let the people know what's popping on your channel in the coming week.
Sure. For sure. You can find me at Liverpool 12th Man. You know, I'm one of the newer channels, so you know, I'm just still growing like Nunez. So so you know, I got raw talent. I got raw talent and ability. So you know, we'll see how
Oh my god. Oh my god.
But all the same. No, big up to everyone in the chat. I saw John II, Angel, and you know, some of the and Jake Kismet, Red for Life. Some of the guys, or at least Jake Kismet, Red for Life. Some of the guys that are part of the Mighty Red Army that I always talk about. And yeah, you can. I usually try to put as many shows out there as I can. It's not easy. I definitely commend G and Jerry with the you know, persistence and commitment that they put to this game, because they definitely bring it, you know, with the content, and they absolutely are committed to, you know, giving some real representation for us out there in the platforms, because we need it for sure. So yeah, I appreciate the invitation and the hospitality, and yeah, and I'm looking forward to the 20 plus as well.
20 plus in the league.
20 plus celebration. Yeah.
Yeah. G.
Yeah, nah, man. Obviously, yeah, ain't done one of these late ones for time, boy. Like, should have got 2 cups of teas, but nah, it was a good conversation, man. It's a good conversation. And big up 12 again, man. I haven't streamed you for a little while, man. We do need to do that show, International versus Club. You've actually got me thinking about it again, so I'm gonna go back to the drawing board and take a look at it. Big up everyone in the chat.
I got it ready for you too. Yeah, I got it ready for you.
Then there you go, man. Yeah, big up everyone in the chat. Tomorrow we're not playing until Wednesday, right? Yeah, Wednesday. So I've only got, I think, 1 video coming out tomorrow. Just kind of expanding on basically everything we've kind of spoken about today as a whole, in terms of Liverpool, their forward line, taking a look at it, my opinions, blah blah blah. And then yeah, we've got the game on Wednesday. So let's just get it, man. Let's just get the W, and then we can go back to being the best team in the world. And then
there you go.
There we go, man. There we go. Guys, thank you again so much for tuning in. Make sure, if you're watching this on a repeat, please comment down below on obviously the stuff we've been talking about. Make sure if you've enjoyed the channel as well, make sure you're subscribing, like up the video as well upon your exit. Tomorrow, obviously, I'll be back with a preview for the Carabao Cup game. So that's going to be obviously interesting game to obviously cover as well, because we've got a lot of injuries. Seems as though Gravenberch is out. McAllister's supposed, just punctured leg seems to be a bit more serious than first.
Oh, I do have an update if you want to. I can give you an update, since it's supposed to be Burnley. It's supposed to be. Someone said that it's supposed to be New Year.
Newcastle. They're saying Newcastle now.
Oh, okay. Because the last report I saw was Burnley. That was at least 2 hours ago that they said Burnley was this year. But if Newcastle is okay, then that is the New Year then.
Yeah, so maybe it is, but maybe it's Burnley. But yeah, we'll have to just wait and see. We have to wait and see. Hopefully he's back before then, because we're struggling right now. But yeah, obviously, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. It's been the Jerry James Show, and have a good night. Take it easy.